Hello, everybody, and welcome to Baka Baka Baka. Everyone always asks, what is Baka Baka Baka? But do you ever ask, how is Baka Baka Baka? We're feeling fine. But we're an anime podcast. Every 2 weeks, we watch an anime, we come together, we talk about it. We then turn the discussion over to you to discuss it in the comment section. We recently watched the first 12 episodes of the second season of ReZero. Now, the other half of the season has not come out yet. Due to production delays, I believe. So we did just watch the first half. We have talked about the first season twice. Back in like episode 4 of our podcast and then episode 100 of our podcast. You can follow up with either of those. But to continue talking about it, I need the help of my co-host. And first off, we have the Eddie to my Roger. Jeremy, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I don't know that reference.
Not yet. Like ReZero, I'm not playing all my cards yet.
Okay. I'm doing pretty good. I got a new computer with Windows 10. Finally, it's time to upgrade.
So excited to squad with us.
Yes, that's exactly why. And I have a Thrustmaster HOTAS coming in the mail, so I'll finally be able to play. Yeah. Super excited. It's been a long time. It's been 6 years since I've upgraded my computer. So it's about time.
Mm-hmm. I wish I could say the same.
All right. We also have the Elmer to my Bugs. Jason, how you doing?
The Wascally Rabbit.
It was a rabbit theme. It was Roger Rabbit.
That's why.
Okay. Well, in between pulling myself away from Cold War, Call of Duty, I'm jazzed every time I realize it's Friday because I know the new Mandalorian's coming out. Top notch side storylines. Like, this show has blown away every expectation of mine. And without getting too much into spoilers, Baby Yoda was fantastic, or is fantastic. Man, actually, he's even more cute this season than he was last season. Especially with those stupid eggs. But anyways, to find out that our main character is the cultist is actually pretty amazing. And Star Wars nerds will know what I'm talking about, but it's I didn't realize he's the odd man out, and that's who we're following. But yeah, incredible lore and story, and it's fun to find out what's going on in after the destruction of the second Death Star. So it's really cool.
One question, because I haven't got a chance to watch any of it yet. How many episodes have come out?
4.
Okay. Is Mando himself in all of them so far?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
He's in every single episode.
I had heard rumors that he might not be in some of the later ones just because of disagreements on the set. So I was just curious if that had changed and if anything had happened there. If you guys saw it, and
Pedro Pascal has been very supportive of the show. I don't think there's any truth to those rumors. Like he is all about this show.
Okay. How's Troy?
Troy's good. Thank you for asking. I said a few episodes back that I was starting to watch Hannibal. I'm 2 seasons in now. The show is heavy. That show is so good, and the show is so heavy. Every line of dialogue has 3 meanings, because it's I'm a serial killer. I know I'm a serial killer, but you can't prove I'm a serial killer. So when I say this, and also Hannibal Lecter is a sassy guy sometimes. Best line I've ever heard in my life. So the guy's like, "Did you poison me? I wouldn't do that to the food."
Oh God.
so good. But yeah, it's a very heavy show, and I cannot watch it. I can't binge it. It's 1 or 2 episodes, and that's it. Or I'm getting nightmares. Take a night off. Watch it again the next night. It is a dark show. It's a heavy show, but it's a fantastic show. Also, I'm now 4, 5 episodes into The Boys season 2. So good. So messed up. Another kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum. It's lighter, but still dark.
Whoa, The Boys is lighter?
Then
Wow.
Hannibal, because Hannibal's like serious, and this is like
I see.
a
Tongue-in-cheek.
whale guts everywhere for
Yeah.
fun. Still bloody, gory, still dark. This is like dark humor versus just darkness.
I see.
All right, but yeah, we have an anime to discuss. This is the second season of ReZero, Starting Life in Another World. Again, we are going to be picking up where the story starts, which is immediately after season 1, and assuming that you are caught up with season 1 or at least have listened to our previous episodes. So we will not be reintroducing characters, even though we will be talking about characters if they had major arcs in this section. But for our non-spoiler section, Jason, this was your pick. I'll let you give the first review. What'd you think?
If you haven't seen this show, season 1 or season 2, go watch it. This is hands down one of those must-watch animes. And this season did not disappoint so far. I'm normally I hate when a season ends and I've got multiple questions. This is one of those rare times where I am so looking forward to the next release of episodes. Like other animes that have done this to me, I'm super disappointed. It actually affects my score. The creator of this series is not only a masterful writer of characters, but his plot hooks and well-earned story beats put this in my top 3. Like I said, this season does not disappoint.
It also helps to take into account it was not meant to stop.
Right.
Here. It was meant to do the rest of the episodes, and so this is not like meant to be hey, everyone take a break. It just had to be. Jeremy, what do you think?
Absolutely awesome. God, do we even need to like do final reviews? We're just gonna do them all right now.
Thanks for listening, guys.
I know what I'm gonna score it. I was genuinely spending quite a bit of time trying to figure out, is there any possibility that I'm just a weeb loyalist for this anime? like why do I like it this much? And so it had a lot of twists. It had fantastic character development. And it does things that you don't expect, but they make sense once you see them, and that's really, really cool. I definitely recommend you go watch the first season and then come watch this. Although I might actually recommend that you, if you can handle waiting, and if you can avoid the spoilers and the memes that have popped up, because if you have, I think I would have been even happier if I could have absorbed it all in one go for season 2. So if you could wait that long, I think you'll enjoy it more.
And as for me, I mean, obviously, the whole reason this podcast episode is about this show is because we love this anime so much, right? We've done it twice for the first season, and we've vowed to stick with it. It's the one anime we will keep coming back to, whereas everything else we just don't have time for. Oh man, it's so good. I was a little concerned about like, okay, sophomore slump maybe, maybe things start to fray with more. I mean, obviously there was going to be more characters coming in. And I was a little worried about that. All that put aside, this show does not let a single character just be a plot device. Every character has their own internal motivations and storyline, and also makes it important to our main character storyline, because he has to figure all that out, and it's the puzzle of his situation. That's how they frame the challenge to our main character, and that's so interesting. You have to know every character. There was a character who I literally thought was a plot device from season 1, who is now a major character. I was telling you these guys in the pre-show, like I'm like, oh, you're still here. I can't believe that, and you're developing. Okay. We've never talked about you before because I thought you were a plot device. Nope, that doesn't exist in this anime. It is so good. It is also it goes from humorous and lighthearted to terrifying and oh my gosh, my children shouldn't be in the room, and I feel existential dread now, and
So I'm gonna bawl my eyes out because I'm so sad.
And I'm emotional.
Yeah.
Top marks. I could gush forever. I'll stop because we have a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
All right, OP and outro. What'd you think, Jeremy?
If I could swear, I would. They are so good. Both of
Will
them.
not
Like,
stop.
what?
Nothing. Go ahead, man.
No, go.
Dude, oh god. The intro specifically was, and again, this anime does such a good job. It doesn't play the intro or the outro every single episode, and it knows how to place them correctly, which I find masterful. I don't remember another anime that does this well. But anyways, the visuals of the intro just kind of tell the story that, like, the first season was very much about loneliness and uh, having to fight that self-isolation. If I could sum up the intro of this in one word, it would be determination. Like, yeah, it's a fight, and he is fighting, and it, again, well deserved. But yeah, the outro was beautiful. I loved it.
Yeah, I completely agree. I really liked how the story that's being told in this anime comes first, and the intro and the outro don't serve to make it feel like you're watching a show. They serve to actually expound upon the story because they accent it, they accentuate it. So, yeah, I completely agree. I mean, in their placement is what I'm specifically thinking of. But also, I really love the fact that they put in the same credit roll that they did in one of the previous episodes of the first season, and that was just, it was so good. It fit really well. But specifically regarding the intro and outro themselves, yeah, I agree. The determination and everything, seeing him just die again and again in such quick succession in the intro was really intriguing, because I'm like, when is that coming? What is the circumstances where that's happening? Is that just emphasizing what we're seeing on a broader time scale and like cramming it down into the intro, making it look like it's immediate, or is that something that we're actually going to see happen? Like, how quickly does he die after he because it makes me think of, like, if you're playing Skyrim and you get a quick save when you're falling off a cliff, right? How do you survive it? And I'm wondering if we're ever going to get in that scenario with him. And that's, I don't know, it makes me think about stuff like that, and that's cool. The music was great, and the outro was really intriguing. And I'm wondering if the butterflies have to do with, like, the branching possibilities, and if he's the butterfly or whatever. But I don't know. But it's cool. It was really nice.
I definitely have theories on the butterflies, but I'll wait till we get to that character.
Sure.
But I will say that about the intro and the outro is that the butterfly motif was so strong that I spent a lot of time thinking about it. Like, okay, what does that mean? That has importance. Why is it coming from this character? And the intro does a really good job of that, being very symbolic and theme heavy. But the scene where he literally is just bursting over and over, and then a new one comes running from behind through the burst of blood, and it just happens over and over, is so good. And then the panicked writing on the screen, the flashes in between. Intro is fantastic. But like you guys said, they don't play it very often. Like, there's a lot of times we usually skip by it. And I've taken a lot of notes for a lot of anime episodes, and I've gotten used to, okay, about this length is when I get into the end. And there was a couple episodes where I'd start going past that, and I'm like, oh, this is a big deal. We're not getting end credits, and oh no, here it comes. And every time, yeah, it hit. I reached out to you guys. I told you I just need to get used to my jaw being on the floor at the end of every episode.
Yep.
I need to share what one of our listeners, Gamer Dad and Geek, said. Every episode this first half of season 2 just felt like nonstop. Oh, you think that sucks? Here's door number 2.
Yep.
That's very true about this anime.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so from here, let's go to our spoiler section. Again, we're picking up right where season 1 left off, literally, and we're just jumping into it. And if you haven't seen season 2 or season 1, this might not be the best listening for you, so just know that our spoilers going forward, characters, motivations, and guesses by us. So we've never read the manga. I don't think any of us have really been spoiled on stuff that's going forward. But so we're if you know stuff, we're gonna sound stupid. Fair warning.
We'll sound Baka.
Hello, everyone. This is Troy from the future, currently working on editing this very episode you're listening to. And I have to make a quick announcement. When we get to the end of this episode, it becomes apparent to us, as it probably will to you as you listen, that myself, Troy, did not watch every single episode. I thought the anime ended for the season on episode 12, and it's actually 13 episodes long. So there are key information points that I am missing as we discuss theories and even themes and stuff. So I apologize for that. That will definitely kind of make things harder to digest as you go along. Also, when we get to that point, which you will hear when we make that discovery, we try to do a recap and some things will be missing. I'll jump back in here and provide some more context to what happens in that recap in case you're using that recap for any purpose. So again, we apologize for that. I hope it doesn't ruin too much of the discussion that we have. There isn't all the information isn't revealed in just that one episode, but there are a couple key plot points. And I have seen it since then. As soon as we got done recording, I went and watched it. It was just not something that I was able to do with our recording schedule at the time. Again, apologies and thank you, and hope you enjoy the podcast.
Yeah, so we start right where we left off. Subaru is in a wagon with Amelia. The whale's defeated. Betelgeuse is defeated. They're riding back to the city,
The village.
The capital.
the capital. Yeah.
That's right.
With Krush's manor.
Well, she's not with them, but that's where she is.
Right.
That's
That's where their destination is.
Mm-hmm.
So let's start with Subaru, our main character. We know where we left off with him, but what did you guys think of him in these 12 episodes?
I'm gonna ooze over every character. His development was so great, and because I'm so glad that we watched the first half again recently, because it helped me go, oh, that's right. He is literally just a kid. Like, he's just coming out of being a teenager. Because a lot of the stuff, his mannerisms and his impulsiveness, which is way reined in from the first season, which I really enjoyed. It really showed a character development for him. And I loved that they opened this season with the teaser scene that we got back in season 1, where Amelia goes, "Who's Rem?" That was super cool that they literally picked up right there. But yeah, Subaru does a fantastic job. His motivations make sense. What happened to him and his determination is well earned. I couldn't ask for a better protagonist for this kind of show. And it's funny because I asked a buddy of mine, have you seen ReZero? And if you haven't, get it watched. And he's like, oh, I can't do another isekai. I'm like, this is not another isekai.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, sure, it falls in that formula. But this is no Overlord or Shield Hero or Slime anime. Like, this is so much in its own category as far as, like, sure, a dude pulled to a mystical land, but it doesn't even compare.
All right, Jeremy, what do you think of Subaru?
He was really, really entertaining to watch this time. There were moments when I was irritated by him because of how much he was bawling and weeping and crying. And granted, yes, it is all justified, but still, it was a little bit frustrating. And then it was all fixed because a character kind of calls him out on it without even like letting him know so much. It's like her observation of it. And then I realized it's supposed to make you think this way. Like, she basically says, oh, you're acting like a child. And it was at that moment I was like, they're intentionally writing him to be so prone to crying. And it fits the story. It develops the story. It helps develop his character, shows who he is, his maturity levels and everything, like you were saying, Jason. And he's actually still in high school, from what I understand. Mm-hmm. So he is very young. And the things that he's put through, the revelations that he gets to experience, finding out what's going on in this season, and just how that reflects on the events of the first season makes me want to go back and watch it just because of that. How he handles that is really interesting, as you could expect. I mean, he's getting to relive these things, so we get so many different takes of what he does, and it's great. Yep.
Quick question: Japanese high school and American high school are different, though. They're not like the exact same years, right?
I'm pretty sure they're not like year for year, but
right.
they're.
So he's got to be like 17, 18, even though he's in.
I thought
high school.
canonically he was
yeah.
19.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
I
I'd
could
have
be
to
wrong,
look at a
but,
wiki.
yeah. Huh?
I'd have to look at a wiki to know, but I know that he's not at like college age. At least I did not get that impression, because if it was college age, I don't think his parents would be treating him the way they are.
I guess I was just always under the impression that like their middle school is our high school, and our high school or their high school is our college, like. Or
I remember we
that.
talked about this a little bit before, but I
I
don't
always
remember
forget.
what conclusion.
It's not important. I'll share my thoughts on Subaru. I really like you said, his annoying mannerisms are dying down. He's faced with a new challenge in this arc. You know, I instead of just playing out like, oh, this is really hard and he's suffering over and over, he's kind of starting to get used to the idea that he has this power and that it can be a tool. And we've praised the show for not making it just a tool, and it still isn't, but he is getting used to the idea like, okay, if I can use this to reset, I'm kind of getting used to it. And if I have this power, I can use this power for the people for what really, really matters to him. Not just that of acid Rick and Morty episode, but you know, important stuff. But now there's this whole new complication in the works that now other people are starting to become aware of the idea that he's looping, and that's this whole new challenge. Like, it's not just I have to do these things in the right order. Now he has to do things in the right order according to other people and himself, or they muck up his run on purpose. And that's like, oh, that's cranking up the difficulty to another level. And then that's now weighing down on him. And also, we'll talk about it when we get there, but we get this episode that really deals with his past, which in an isekai is a big, no. They don't do that. And getting to see that with this character, the whole, hey, I'm just a shut-in, instead of just being a character quirk, it's a character flaw, and we have to deal with it. And that's so impressive to me. So Subaru really impressed me this time.
And I was about to say, I would have complained that he was using this ability as a tool, because they made such a point in the first season. I don't want to die, no matter how bad things were going for him. I loved when he started to use it as a tool and going, okay, this is going to happen, and then this plays out, and then this plays out. He doesn't take into consideration that the way he's acting is funny to other people now, and that triggers other people to now treat him hostile, and and it screws him up bad. And I thought that was a great punishment for trying to use it as just a crutch.
All right.
Just to satisfy our curiosity, during these arcs, he's 17.
Okay. So the other character in the wagon with him, along with the village children, is Emilia. Like Jason mentioned, Rem is kind of out of the who is Rem? She's out of the picture in this arc.
Makes me so sad.
Still a factor in the story, but yeah, like she's not on our list of characters to talk about because obviously doesn't have any character development. But
severe lack of Rem.
Knowing how important she is to you, I did want to just give a shout out to Rem. I really like that the weight of her, especially in the closing scene where they show Rom in the pink light and then it switches to a blue light, and it's like, oh, where was that Rem?
Nope.
I just love that she has this weight that matters so much to Subaru, matters so much to the other characters. Even if she's not there, she's still bae to so many people, and. Mm-hmm. Like I said, I understand it. But let's talk about other bae, Emilia. Jeremy, what do you think of her this season?
Which bae is fascinating. I am so curious about the connection between her and Satella, like way more than I was in the first season, just because of the things that they do in this season so far. And I mean, there's just a host of theories that have popped up in my head of what the scenarios could be around her. And especially like when you mentioned in the first season, the theory of, time loop and whether or not he creates Satella somehow that we haven't really seen. And, I don't know. That's a possibility. Didn't you say that? I swear you said that.
I did.
Oh, okay. I thought you looked around confused just now.
I had a lag, so I was just I was checking wires and stuff.
sensible then. But it was really interesting to see how she reacted differently depending on how he treated her. Like if he was supportive of her and treated her like maybe too supportive, treated her like a baby a little bit, or treated her like certainly not royalty, not someone who has to stand up and be strong and make decisions, but somebody who needed so much support, she kind of fell into that role and it wasn't good for her. And other times when he treated her like she, needed to be strong and needed to stand up, she did well, but things still didn't go great either. It was interesting to see how she played off of his treatment of her. And even in the same scenarios, it wound up making her a completely different personality. And that was really cool.
All right, Jason, what'd you think?
Yeah, her ability to, because she's got this meekness about her and this softness, but her determination is fantastic. And that she goes through these trials that we'll get into later, and it nearly breaks her almost every time. But even though she goes back and gets some rest, she's like, I'm going in again. We're going to do this again. She's much stronger than I think the other characters give her credit for. But yeah, her connection with Satella is definitely there. I have some theories on it as well. But getting to meet the other witches and her potential relationship with them is fascinating, and I can't wait to get into that either. But yeah, she was great.
I'll be honest, one of the things from this season 1 that kind of created some frustration from time to time was that whenever Amelia and Subaru would get close or get on a familiar footing with each other, it'd get reset. And then so many times there was the, why are you doing this for me? You hardly know me. And I'm just so happy we're past that. Like at this point, there's been enough save points with actual experience together so that he has confessed that he loves her. She has at least accepted his confession and obviously is showing some affection towards him, although she's not the type to be open about it. She finds it embarrassing, like the time she reached out and touches his arm. I'm really liking that this, at least not even like romantic relationship, but this relationship between these two characters has stepped forward, that now we get to see her instead of being on guard because she had such a past of speciesism, racism, whatever you want to call it, against her, that we're able to move past that and start getting to know her. And I absolutely love that she is failing at these trials, that she has some kind of past that is traumatizing to her so bad that the first trial is unbeatable for her. It makes me so curious, and also, it's such an interesting situation to put Subaru, because like you said, if he's like, hey, I'll do this for you, hey, that's offensive to me, I got this, but also, okay, but you're not winning. and I'm throwing you, we're running you into a meat grinder over and over again, and what's the right answer? And there isn't one, and yeah, Amelia's still my bae, but yeah.
You like them dark and scary.
Well, apparently what she's dealing
My
with...
wife would agree, so yeah.
Apparently what she's dealing with in this trial is part of the movie Memory Snow, which is a movie I haven't seen yet, and I didn't realize was out for this canon of the story. It deals with her past. Like, it's about a particular moment in her past. And because the first trial is specifically about a character flaw of your past, I believe that that's what she's dealing with in these memories, and that's why she's having such a hard time with it.
I think I remember doing a little tiny bit of research into that, and I think that movie was like a lot of talking between her and Puck.
Yeah, it's about their contract, them making a contract, right?
Yeah, so I'm going to have to go watch that after this. But
I actually considered it, and I got busy. But also, if that randomly guessing if someone who hasn't seen that, if snow plays a big impact in that backstory, that would also explain another layer to the snow that shows up later that has clear intentions. Dang. Yeah, we need to watch that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe we'll do a mini-sode on it.
I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah, so we get the Who is Rem scene, and then we get flashed over to what happened to Rem, and we see Krush and her band, after they've defeated the whale, they're heading back early with the injured, and Rem is going with them, and two more archbishops of the witch appear. One is like this all white hair guy just standing in the road, and they try to run him over, and everything just it's like it's coming out of his voice, isn't it? Seems like his voice was his weapon.
I'm not really sure. It
I'm
almost seemed
not
like an
sure
enchanted blade was just defending him or something.
Yeah, so he's slaughtering their wagons left and right. Krush, man, I'm in the first episode and I yelled because she swipes at him and then suddenly her arm just goes flying. And I'm like, Krush, no.
Yeah. Yeah.
I knew it. You said that. You're like, I just finished the first episode. It got me to yell out loud. And like when I finally watched the first episode, I was like, that moment right there. He yelled right there.
I also said the scene was disarming, so to try to lay the breadcrumbs for you.
Yeah,
fair enough.
Yeah, and then there's another one there who's Gluttony, long-haired guy with one eye sticking out, and he's like, "Hey, you guys killed my whale. I'm not happy about it, and I'm gonna eat you." Rem goes to fight them. They she holds her own for about a minute. Then they team up and overpower her, and Gluttony devours her. And then we come back to Subaru and Amelia reaching the capital, reaching Krush's manor, and seeing all the injured laid out, realizing they've been attacked again. It's gotten way worse. And he goes running to find Rem. And he does find her. She's there, but she's gone. So we're going to find out that her name and her memories have been leaving her an empty shell, which is what Gluttony eats. But when he finds her on the ground and she's not waking up, and I love this moment, he decides, okay, I'm going to commit suicide. I'm going to redo this and fix this.
Yeah, he's going, I need to defeat the whale again.
Yeah, but I love that. Okay, I can beat the whale again. I know how to beat Beetlejuice. I know how to get everyone out of the village. There will be a bomb in the wagon. And he commits suicide, and he ends up back in the wagon with Amelia after everything has happened. So basically, the save point has now moved to a point where he cannot save Rem.
My heart broke in the first episode.
Yeah, but it was such a good decision because we're finally seeing like some consequences of things that he can't fix, and not just Rem, but also Krush. What happens to her too? Like, it's great. It's great to have these consequences for him, even though it's very painful.
Because we find out that Krush also got devoured, right?
Just her memory. She has her name, so she's still awake. She can talk, but she has basically amnesia.
Yeah.
And if you notice, she has undergone a major personality shift.
And everyone still knows about her. That's right.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, the only reason that he got Rem's name is because they asked who you are, who are you? And she actually went on with the big title and everything and said her name. And otherwise he wouldn't have been able to do that.
I didn't pick up on that. That's good. There is an important scene here. Basically, before we meet up with Krush again, when she has amnesia, Subaru's in the room with Rem, and Puck comes in, and he's the one who explains, and Puck being a little kitty spirit, comes in and explains what happened. Name, memories got eaten, empty shell. And he says, take care of Amelia for me. We don't see Puck for the rest of the anime.
You know what was also disturbing about this whole exchange? Because Amelia comes in a minute and they have a conversation. They keep having Subaru in the bottom right half, and behind him is a knife next to some cheese or something, and it keeps showing that knife, and I'm like, he's gonna do it again. I don't do it. Don't do it.
Yep, that's what I was thinking too. He even looks at the knife at one point.
Well, during the conversation he asks, can you turn around, Amelia? I'm gonna cry, and I'm like, no, he's gonna grab the knife.
Yeah.
Yes, so we get basically a meeting with all the characters who fought the White Whale. So there's Wilhelm, there's Felix, there's Krush, and basically Felix is like, okay, we need to break the alliance, and he's not doing it to be a jerk, and everyone else is kind of offended, but he's like, Krush almost died. She's lost her memories. No, she can't be doing this anymore. This alliance is dangerous, but Krush and Wilhelm, especially Krush, because she's the one who gets to make the decision, are like, no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to, back out of this. You can't keep me from danger. This is a dangerous world. This is what we have to do. And we find out, like, this affliction of your memories and your name being eaten has been spreading throughout the capital lately. This is not just a one-time thing. These guys are around and getting active.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get the scene of him again with Rem and Amelia coming to offer support, and him asking, like, would you turn away? I'm going to cry. And then she does, but then she also hugs him. And then he vows to save Rem. And that's how our first episode ends. All right. And then in our next episode, they decide to take Rem back home and get all the villagers back to the village and everyone else back to the manor. They head there, they reach the village, and they realize Roswell and Ram and those who fled have not come back from the sanctuary they went to hide at. I have that correct, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So they go to the mansion, and there's a new maid there. The new maid, her name is Frederica. And
Look at those chompers.
Look at those chompers, which I'm so glad he said chompers when she does have other assets. But yeah, she's got big pointy teeth and huge tracts of land and wild blonde hair. And she's in a maid outfit. She's like, yeah, I used to work as a maid here. I had to take a leave of absence, and now I'm back. And what do I know? The mansion's empty, so I just started working again. Thoughts on Frederica?
They were mixed for a while because I was like, is she a bad guy? Is she a good guy? Is she just working for her own ideals? What is going on? She won me over by the end. I really liked her as a character. I liked her species, basically a werewolf or werebeast, I guess. Yeah. And yeah, she's, I like her connection with her brother, who we'll learn about later. And she was a great addition to the cast, and it didn't feel jarring to have her be an important figure in the second half so far.
That's another thing that I think the intro did a really good job with, and I complain about this a lot when the intro spoils too much, but in this one we get moments where it looks like Frederica is a bad guy, and it just keeps you wondering, like, is she? I'm not sure. I don't think she is, but suspicious. And it's not just with her either. There's other characters that I got the same impression of, and it didn't turn out that way. I thought she was really cool, and it was interesting to me to see, like did we mention it before? But no, we didn't mention it before. This was in the pre-show. But we get a moment to actually get a glimpse into the past and see what might have happened, and we get a little bit of power scaling there. And I did not imagine that things were going to wind up the way that they did with those two characters, and we'll talk about that later. But in this situation as well, we get a little power scaling between Frederica and another character. And I was completely blown away. It didn't go the way that I thought it would, and I'll bring it up more then. But she seems very ignorant of the situation, just a very obedient, ignorant maid that has strong ideals, a good heart, but that's really about as much character development as we get. But she's a good character, an interesting character, but she's just not important enough to be in the limelight very much in this part of the season.
I guess her biggest thing is her mystery. There's a secret between her and another character, but especially because she's keeping specific secrets is why she seems so suspicious all the time. And even now, after I'm on to you, ReZero, I still don't 100% trust anybody at the moment. Yeah. Save me once doesn't make you a good guy.
No.
Kill me once doesn't make you a bad guy. I got you, ReZero. I got it.
Yep.
It only took Rem to figure this out.
Yep.
um,
Yep.
So yeah, I'm really interested to see what her secret is. The small twist we do get about her was really interesting, because it was a big question mark that he was trying to solve. So that was cool. But otherwise, yeah, she was good addition to the cast, and I really like how her and Rom play off against each other when they have a conversation later.
And I do also love that all the maids that Roswell hires are just really overpowered people that happen to wear a maid's suit.
Yeah. Super maids.
All right, we need to talk about this guy, the driver, the friend of Subaru,
My boy Otto.
Otto. I'm gonna let Jeremy go first on this one. Jeremy, what'd you think of Otto?
I thought Otto was great. He was nothing like the character that I thought he was going to be in the first season. I know you thought the same thing. It was interesting to see how they used his abilities, but also how his friendship with Subaru grew, even though we're just seeing that same time period go over and over and over again. It seemed like he was closer with Subaru with every, return by death, even though in reality what we were just getting was more of a glimpse into Otto's mind, right?
Right.
Like we're just seeing more accurately how Otto sees the situation, and that was really cool. He made some decisions that I absolutely would never have guessed he would make. I mean, there was one moment where he had the choice between wealth or doing the right thing for a friend, and I really thought he was going wealth. They played me there, and that was really well done. So yeah, I enjoyed what they did with him.
Jason, what did you think of him?
I really love that they took this fairly like low screen time character from the first season and ended up using him to help our main character solve a character flaw. I thought that was great. That basically because of Otto, and it wasn't Amelia, but it was Otto that allowed Subaru to accept that other people cared about him. That was really cool, and that they had that bromance going on where they both ripped on each other, which was pretty great. A little more Subaru to Otto than the other way around. But yeah, he was a great addition this time around. Again, well earned, just the way it was written.
Yeah, he was the character I was really referring to when I said I thought they were just a plot device, and then they became an actual character. So I'm really impressed with that. Good for him. I can't believe he's hanging around. he constantly surprises me, and I'm happy he's there.
Mm-hmm.
All right, back at the mansion, we go and talk to Beatrice, the library spirit. And he shows her the witch's gospel that he stole off of Beetlejuice. She makes a comment about he left her behind, and I wrote down
Juice.
Juice left her behind. Yeah, okay, it was that. I was wondering if I messed up my notes.
No.
And then she also mentions the witch factor. So we learned there's now the power of these archbishops come from the witch factor that they carry with them. Anyway, thoughts on Beatrice this season?
I love the way the story is developing, because in the first season we assumed most of these characters didn't have a lot of knowledge about the witch's cult. They just knew of its existence, and now we're getting a bunch of details from characters we assumed shouldn't know much about the witch's cult. And also Beatrice almost made me cry. So I haven't had an anime do that to me before. But shit, like, yeah, the animation, the writing, fantastic. Beatrice is a great character in this season. Yeah.
She almost seemed like a different character. And the catalyst of that was that gospel. I think that broke something in her. Maybe there's some kind of nostalgia or recollection that she's having, but it seemed like it just pulled everything up to the top. And maybe it's also being truly alone in that place, since Rosewall's gone and Subaru's gone. Nobody's chatting with her, but her behavior changes so much from what I remember of her in the first season, where really she was just always irritated and ready to kick him out, and but at the same time had a soft spot for him and would help him out here and there with little tidbits of information and stuff. But this time there was this neediness about her, and it fit the way that her character was developing, and I thought that was really cool. I remember when I was looking up a little bit about the alternate storylines, I stumbled across a little bit of information, and so I kind of knew about the connection between her and Beetlejuice, but it still was so cool to see that just slipped in there. And yeah, so I absolutely enjoyed what they did with her.
It was so great and nostalgic feeling to have Subaru walking down the hallway, and he's like, this door, and he opens it up, and there's the library.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, I honestly don't remember what I said about her, but deep down, I've always had a bit of a frustration with Beatrice because I've never really understood her goals. And honestly, I've spent a lot of time in this season thinking about characters' goals, because I do think that is very important to get what's actually going on. And I've been telling you guys, this is like a Rubik's Cube puzzle that I just cannot fit together, or it's like putting together a puzzle and I don't have all my pieces yet, but I can tell I'm putting together a picture. Beatrice was always a huge missing piece for me. I'm like, you're just the lady who's obstinate in the library, and sometimes you help and sometimes you're cranky. Finding out a lot more about her motivations, I still have some questions about like what she wants, but finding out like what her goal is, and then the twist in the final episode, the knife twist, jeez, makes her much more compelling to me, and so I enjoyed her much more this season.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. So she tells them you need to go to the sanctuary. They go to Frederica, who is from there. They ask for her help. She's like, okay, here's some advice. You got to do it this way. You need to watch out for a guy named Garfield. He's going to be dangerous. Just be very, very careful about him. Take this blue stone with you. Gives it to Amelia. Amelia puts it on her neck. Says you'll need that. And gives them directions, but says she can't go. So Otto's going to take him. And also, we should mention that, what's her name? Petra. The little girl from the village, the girl who likes Subaru. One thing about this anime, it's getting a little too harem-y for me. I kind of wish they dialed it back a little bit, but mostly...
I mean, for God's sake, even a dragon joins the harem.
Right. It's a minor complaint, but alright.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Petra gives him a handkerchief to tie around his wrist, which is a good luck charm in this world of, like, you wear it back and forth, and it's a good luck charm. So they set off. They reach the forest. The blue stone starts to glow. Subaru grabs it off of her so she won't get hurt. She passes out, and he disappears, and he wakes up in a forest. He sees a little pink-haired girl. He runs after her and finds some ruins. He goes... Man, there's a lot happening at once, guys.
Yeah.
This is episode 2. He finds all those ruins. He goes into
the ruins.
And then is teleported to a grassy field with a young woman dressed in all black with all white hair, white eyebrows, and she's like, "Hi, I'm the Witch of Greed. Welcome to my witch's tea party." This is Echidna. Echidna. Don't say it wrong, or Rosevere will kill you.
That's right.
Echidna, the Witch of Greed. Thoughts on her character, you guys?
Wow. I still, even racking my brain now, and even though she kind of declared what she wants, still trying to kind of figure her out, because she's always holding something back. She is a fantastic bad guy. And she even comes out and says, like, I'm an evil witch. I do evil things, but I'll help you. But, yeah, she is definitely the driver of the plot for this particular season. And her motivations, the way she interacts with Subaru, and also the way he surprises her is fantastic. And I think it has a lot to do with that cultural divide between their world and his. And yeah, it's she was fantastic to watch and also be a part of this story.
Yeah. It was interesting because we do get introduced to some other witches as well, and it's not like this is the kind of character that I thought everybody was going to be, and they weren't. They were all very, very different. But I loved the way that she behaved. Like her greed was oriented towards accumulating knowledge, and so she behaved in such a way as if she had a font of knowledge. She had a sort of dignity and elegance and composure about her, which would break occasionally, but it was very compelling and believable. I kind of got the impression that this was very much a deal with the devil scenario. Like, this is how that devil would present itself, because it has so much more knowledge than you. It's going to make sure that it manipulates you with its words and everything else. And she did that so well. And
everything down to the tea that they were sharing.
Yeah, exactly. And I know the tea has become a big meme online now too.
Cool.
Yeah, but no, she was absolutely fascinating, and she lies to him constantly, even about things she doesn't need to lie to him about. Like, it would make no difference, absolutely zero difference. So she's really just establishing a character trait that's what she's going to do.
And 100% sociopathic. Like,
yeah, and yet at the same time, I completely get where she's coming from. Like, it makes sense if you look at it, without any sort of empathy, like in a sociopathic light. Her goals and the way she's going to achieve them make a lot of sense. She even states it outright at one point where she's like, I will get you to what you want. I will. I was thinking, oh, genies, that's the genie curse right there. And yeah, and that's exactly what it is. And she winds up openly telling him that, and has no problem with it. Like, it's going to take sacrifice, but you'll get there.
Oh boy, I have spent a lot of time thinking about this character. I do not think the witches are evil. Matter of fact, the quote you just said, Jason's a little off. She didn't say I'm an evil witch. She says I'm a witch, implying that she's evil. And she also, so when she meets them, she also mentions the other witches, and she lists off an achievement next to each of their name. And each achievement is like, I wanted to do something positive for the world, and created ruin in its wake.
So real quick to pause, did you watch the sub or the dub?
Dub.
Huh?
Dub.
Okay, I watched the dub, and in the dub, she specifically says, I use evil magic, and I am an evil witch.
Okay.
So that might be a translation miss.
Well, no, I watched the dub, so I must have missed that she said that. But
okay.
I also think she's the primary antagonist of this story arc. She
lies constantly, so maybe
right. Exactly.
Yeah.
I also, in the sub, even though it's in Japanese, it still felt like sarcasm when she said it.
I can see that.
I don't know if it's like, you may be right, Troy. It may be that she's even saying, even though it comes out of her mouth, that she could be the unreliable narrator about herself saying, I'm evil. Haha.
Think of the great mob beast, right? And the explanation we get for why did you create these? So there would be food. But it's also not fair for the food not to be able to eat you. That seems like it's like I'm trying to help, but because I'm a witch of sin, there has to be a taint to it. There has to be a dark side to it. And that's very like when she's offering the contract. I will get you to what you want, but I will satisfy my greed at the same time. And it's not just knowledge she wants, it's experience. She wants to experience everything. I'm going for it. We find out she tried to create an immortal being that she could jump her soul into and have multiple, so she could experience so much. She couldn't do it. But now here's this second opportunity of a guy who literally can do that.
So,
yes.
When she said, I want to be able to share in your return by death, I thought she wanted to use it to come back to life. Because I thought that's what her clones were for, was to prolong her life as well.
I'm not.
She did want immortality. It's true.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what exactly her end of the bargain means, but I definitely know it it's getting to have those experiences from him,
Because
right?
she's trapped here.
Right. And like Jeremy said, she'll get him to the right end. He may have to die 1,000 times, and she'll get to have. And this comes back to the butterflies, and I think what Jeremy said in when we're talking about the OP was exactly right. The butterflies are all the different paths that can happen, and I think it's very telling. She's the one releasing them. She's creating the paths. That's why she's the puppet master here. Everything that's happening, we find out like, hey, who holds this contract? Oh, it's her. Hey, who built this person? Who's Roswell helping? Like everything comes back to her, and I think it's because she's creating like all these paths. I think she's the primary antagonist. I don't think she's villainous like evil characters that are.
She's not like a mustache twirling
Right.
Machiavellian villain. Yeah.
Right. With the fact, like I mentioned, that the witches, whatever the witches seem to do, seems to be horrible no matter how hard they try. God, she's fascinating, though.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that's the thing that's so beautiful about them is that they are that sort of, if you cut away other important context from this one thing, what are you left with? You're left with something that's so distilled that it actually ruins everything else. So whether it's envy or sloth or lust or fury, wrath, whatever, each of these things, when you cut away the context of empathy and you cut away the context of reasoning, just the fact that the hunger one, the gluttony one, is all chained up and everything and always talking about eating, but she's clearly not eating while she's chained up. So she's not actually, it's the thought of gluttony that's intriguing her so much. It's the thought of that. And I think it's that way with all of them. So they're so obsessed with that one thing that they just hold it in such high esteem over everything else. They don't consider any other quality. And I think that makes them villainous. It makes them evil because even if they do try to do good, their perspective is so corrupt that it will only ever end in bad.
I did not write down the achievements that she lists for each of the witches. I wish I had, but I remember one of them created the dragon.
Pushed the dragon to the west.
Okay.
That was Sloth. Mm-hmm. But didn't the dragon defeat the witches or something? Like, I can't remember the story we got in the first season.
A warrior, and someone else defeated Satella.
Uh-huh. So the dragon helped to defeat Satella. So having Sloth drive the dragon away may not be a good thing.
And let's not forget, Roswell wants to kill the dragon.
He wants to kill it.
We know that.
And Echidna says Satella ate all the other witches.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Uh-huh. And they're only here in this dream castle because it's like an afterlife for them.
Right.
Which begs the question, if they're a part of Satella here and what happens later, who's really buried here or who's really trapped here?
That's an interesting question because, we even do get something from Oswald where he says this place is incredibly strong with the witches' presence. And I don't think he was meaning witches in general. I think he was talking specifically about Satella. Because that's the only one that would really matter in the context of the conversation.
If they break the barrier, who else gets out?
Right. Yes.
I just realized that. Oh my god.
Yeah, I didn't think of that either. That's interesting. Ooh.
If Satella's trapped here because of the barrier,
because she would be half-breed, just like Amelia.
If they break the barrier, are they gonna unwittingly release Satella?
I could totally see that.
And that's why she hasn't shown up in the first season, because she's been trapped in this place the whole time, and she can only reach out to Subaru through their connection.
That's a very interesting theory.
Huh.
Also, who's putting up the barrier? Is it Echidna? I think they at one point claimed it. She claimed it wasn't. When she said
it says that she's in charge of the trials, right?
But she said she's not.
Well, she says she observes the trials and she can meddle in them, and she can grant someone the right to take them. But yeah, she also says she's not. She didn't make them.
So who's responsible for the barrier? Is it the dragon?
Maybe.
Huh.
But we also, like, there's a barrier that they mention where she's talking about, oh my gosh, Satella, you even made it through this barrier. But that barrier is entirely in the Castle of Dreams. That's not in the real world. So they're definitely not the same barriers. So I don't know.
See, this is what I'm talking about. There's question marks. You don't even realize there's question marks. Like, we've stumbled upon this. Hey, who made the barrier and what's its purpose that the show never even talks about, but it is super important to what's going on. And it would make a lot of sense if whoever put up the barrier was like, if I make it only half-breeds can't go through it, then this half-breed evil witch that needs to be contained would be stuck inside. Okay.
Yeah.
We got to move forward.
Okay.
Good call.
Huh.
They come outside. There's a wild beast man with the exact same teeth as Frederica. Like, I wrote down in these notes, it's her brother, and then like 5 episodes later, they're like, is it your brother? Yeah, it's her
Come
brother.
on, guys.
He attacks Subaru, throws him, Patrice, the ground dragon, his buddy ground dragon, catches him. And so this guy pile drives the ground dragon.
He RKO's the ground dragon.
Yeah. But then they mention that they know Frederica, and he's like, "Oh, okay. Well, then I'll help you get to the sanctuary." And this is Garfield, who is a huge wild card for Subaru, who thinks he gets them figured out pretty fast, and then every time he thinks that, does not work out. What did you guys think of Garfield?
I loved Garfield. He's this impulsive, paranoid, like, if you could label conspiracy theorist like in an anime of a fantasy character, it's this guy. He hates Roswell, which I love. He's constantly suspicious of literally everybody. And he needs to know your motivations or he's going to throw you in prison.
Yes. And it's so funny because even if you tell him your motivations, he still just consistently says, you're going to go do something evil if I let you outside the barrier. You're going to go do something evil. And you're right. It's totally conspiracy.
Yeah, totally. He's a crack nut, but he's also like, he's a complete wild card, but he's also like, once he's made a decision, he follows through with it to the end, which I think is fantastic. Like, he's really dependable that way. And also I love that he's just willing to turn into his beast form, which is so much cooler than his sister's. Yeah. And then he just goes to town.
He's a great hey, this is my friend. He's a good guy. Oh, he killed me. You do not assume you know who the good guys are. And even when he had his moments of murderous rage, I'm like, I know you're a good guy. I know you're on the Allies team. You're just the kind of guy who murders someone rather than take a risk. Very similar to Rem.
Yep.
But yeah, I had a lot of, like I said, I spent a lot of time thinking about characters' motivations. What is their thing? Because that's what Subaru has to do. That's what this whole arc is about. And looking at his and trying to figure out his, and there's a big secret question mark that we don't know about him. He has taken the trials.
Mm-hmm.
And he wants to get everyone out of the sanctuary, but he's also kind of being neutral in the whole affair. But yet he's also holding the villagers hostage if they can't leave. So
he's also the guardian of the trial, so he needs to be there when someone's taking the trial. It's kind of odd what his position is.
Which doesn't actually happen every time. There's one point where he's not there and someone takes the trial. But yeah, it was really interesting to find out that once again, we have characters that in other situations like this, I guess I won't like circle it too much. He winds up being the apostle of greed. And when we find that out, that makes so much more sense. So many other things about him. Now, he's not an archbishop of greed or anything. He's just an apostle of greed. And I think that the distinction between those two things winds up being very important because one, it sounds like, is given to you by the specific witch, while the other one perhaps is given to you by Satella as a version of that witch's power through her. That's just my guess. But it was really interesting to see that there's a little bit of insanity. Like you were saying, Jason, with the conspiracy theory, right? Now we see other characters that have interacted with Echidna and openly call themselves insane because of it. And so it's just really intriguing to see and wonder how much of his personality quirks and oddness and flaws are actually due to interacting with her. And even at one point, another character says that I swear this is how I remember it, said that he views her as his lover. So just the things we learn about Garfield make him a very interesting character, and also just the name Garfield. Without the D, Garfield.
Without the D.
Come
and
on.
he's a cat.
And he's a cat. Yep.
An orange cat to begin with.
And I don't know if he's completed all the trials or maybe just one or two and stopped. I don't know. Because it would only take one to meet Echidna.
Well, because there's an implication when they first start taking the trials that there's a trial to take, and then we come to find out, oh, there's 3.
So maybe that number's a variable.
So when they get to Sanctuary, they run into Rom. Thoughts on Rom?
I love her sassiness. And I think Jeremy actually said it best in pre-show. So why don't you go ahead?
Oh, it's just so good. She shines so much. And as much as I love Rem, having Rem out of the picture lets Ram shine so much. She's spunky, she's bratty, and at the same time, like, she tries to draw the limelight on herself sometimes, which is just, it seems so, I don't know, I guess it's not uncharacteristic because it did happen in the first season, but it was so overshadowed. And she really stands out this time. And there's even a little bit of a relationship between her and Garfield. And you kind of get these moments where you're like, I wonder if she's not so against the idea, even though she's so loyal to Roswell and thinks, of him in similar terms, perhaps. But yeah, and we get some of the most visceral moments with Ram too, like very, very cool, well done, both for the story and also for just that emotional impact. So yeah.
So when I watched the sub, I called her Ram. Now that I've watched the dub, they definitely call her Rom. Does it change between the two?
In the sub, I've always heard them say Ram.
Yeah, me too. Like, yeah. I only picked it up when you started saying it the way you did, and I was like, yeah, when we did season 1, I watched the sub, and I called her Ram. This is the first time I've watched the dub, and I will say, for Rom, it was much easier to pick up on her sassy, sarcastic remarks, which made me like her even more. She has a biting wit. She may not be good at much else, but I especially like when we find out that Roswell's all bandaged up, and I couldn't do it. What if I had hurt him more? I'm terrible at stuff.
Yeah.
Actually, I love that when they first visit, like on the way back from the whale, they visit the mansion, and like the kitchen is a disaster, and they're like, "Oh no, she was by herself."
Have Rob in charge.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, really liked her. So then after meeting Rom, we go inside and there's Roswell, all bandaged up, badly injured, having a rough time. Mm-hmm. Guys, again, this is thanks to the English dub, but the way he played with just random words and very rarely, like, it's so nice to see you again.
Yeah.
I absolutely love it. So creepy.
What
do you guys think?
So I accidentally spoiled a little bit about him to myself, about why he is the way he is, and it's absolutely fascinating. So if you're interested, definitely go look that up. But he performs fantastic because we get so much more screen time with him this season, and I love that he's. Obviously he's been wounded, but he's kind of faking how bad it is.
Yeah.
I want to know his motivation. I want to know his secret so bad because there's something else that's in like what he wants, and he's figured out that Subaru's looping, and he knows he can push Subaru to do what he wants to get him to his ultimate goal, even though he's also got this contract with Echidna. like they made him 10 times more fascinating. Because I remember us on our 100th episode talking about him, going, is he bad guy? Like,
yeah, we all got
what
the
is going
vibe.
on with Roswell? We had so many theories, and this kind of confirmed a couple of them, that he's got his own agenda. Part of it's about the dragon, and we cannot trust this character.
Oh no. No, there's a specific moment in this where he does one thing and I'm like, that's too far, man. That's too far. I understand every other sociopathic thing you've done, but that's too far.
The murder?
Yeah. Huh?
The murder?
Of
Pink?
yes.
No, I think what really sealed the deal of like craziness for me is he's standing there getting attacked, and he's like, even though I'm gonna die, I know there's a version of myself that's gonna get what he wants,
Yes.
and that's good
Yeah.
enough for me. I was like,
Yeah.
oh my god.
Yeah, he even turns to Subaru and he's like, I can't return by death like you. I can't reset like you. Wait, you need to get my resolve. You need to become like me. And his eyes, like when he's talking about become like me, his eyes are out of focus. He becomes wall-eyed. One eye points one way and the other eye points the other way. And it's like they do a really good job of giving you that sense of him accepting his insanity openly.
I trust him more than ever.
Well, I guess, yeah, he has stated a lot of his goals outwardly now.
There's a single line that does it. He actually, I should probably wait till we get there, but he says the line, considering what our future is, this is probably a bad choice, and then beats Subaru to a pulp.
Tells him, I can't kill you directly, but...
But that
Yep.
says to me that at least in whatever intended future there is, he's an ally. They're on the same side. But there is the big question of what is so important to him that he's willing to do all these horrible things. But I do, again, very sociopathic, very, very crazy. But I do think he's of the thing like, if it's looping, then there's no consequences to my actions. As long as I get to a resolution in another loop, it doesn't really matter who I murder right now or ruin right now, because this doesn't matter. All that matters is the loop that works.
Yeah.
Which is kind of where Echidna's at.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's also it's also kind of where Subaru is at.
Yeah.
Which, okay, that's now just blowing my mind. There are other characters in this anime that are taking advantage of Subaru's power besides Subaru.
That's what I was saying.
Like, that's so cool.
Yeah. Yeah. But you're right. They're all kind of reflections of him, even in that way, especially Rosewall of his own behavior and treatment of his own life, even though, and I totally agree with you about resetting. He knows that. He even calls Subaru out and he's like, you should be a lot more pissed than you are. Why aren't you so pissed? Oh, is it because you think you can undo it? Yeah, that's why, isn't it? And
He's also probably getting a little numb to it.
Yeah.
Like, it's shocking, but
Yeah.
he's getting emotionally numb to the consequences.
Exactly. And Roswell would have to be able to pick that up. Like, that's the thing that really makes him interesting to me is, as far as every Roswell is concerned, he's only had one timeline. And so he's only had one string of encounters with Subaru. So we have to look at each of the last encounters that Subaru has with him in any given circumstance in order to understand what Roswell's perspective is. And in those situations, what kind of clues could he have gotten from Subaru to figure out that Subaru, and if not, what's in the book?
Right. I was about to say, that's the one thing you're missing. He has all of Subaru's future actions. And I think, like, when we talked about why did he change his actions in this time loop, it's the book. The book is telling him, hey, at this point, you need to do this now because Subaru has changed. So I think the book changes in each time loop because of Subaru. But he knows where Subaru's timelines end up.
But here's the thing. Knowing the destination, as far as like, I want to be at this point, doesn't necessarily mean that you know the process to get there. He seems kind of ignorant about it. Like, there's one point where, where something happens and he goes, oh, so this is how it's going to end. So he clearly didn't know what his own actions were going to bring about. I don't think he sees.
He just
Subaru.
knows the end result.
Yeah, I don't think he even really knew that this would come about by looping. I think it was just such an unrealistic possibility. And I'm wondering, because again, he's still stuck with that one timeline of memories, right? So even if he has the books, how does he know when the book changes? He doesn't, because this is one consistent timeline for him.
That's a good point, because he meets this really naive kid, and then all of a sudden he's doing these amazing things over and over and over again. Right. And I could see that coming to that conclusion.
Yes, and I actually don't even think he knows he loops by death. I think he just knows he loops, and he's trying to motivate him to trigger it.
Right.
I'll leave it at this.
Maybe that's why he beats him up and doesn't just automatically kill him. He doesn't know how he loops again.
And he doesn't want to risk killing him if that stops the loop.
What I want to say is, I think these books that tell the future are so vastly important to everything going on. It's not only the tome he has and the tome Beatrice has, but then we also know the cultist books have their own version of the future. Yeah. We know, we're going to get to it, there are assassins who are showing up to meet Subaru at a specific time. They know he's going to show up and are surprised if he doesn't show up at that time. But they know he's coming. But no one's telling them. I think whoever's hiring them has a book. These books out there in the wild are this huge. they're like the anti-Subaru, right? He gets to choose to the proper path, but they have books that tell them what the paths are going to be and which one is going to win.
There was multiple times where Betelgeuse was like, you're not supposed to be here yet.
Right.
Well, but I think that's the thing. I think the book is fate. And I think that Subaru defies it, and then it has to snap in at the save point and become real history. That's what I think's happening. So essentially what you'd have is these segments for these people where they're looking at the situation, they're like, you're not behaving in line with the book. But then...
So, Betelgeuse was an apostle of Sloth.
An archbishop.
He was an archbishop of Sloth.
Archbishop of Sloth. But given that archbishop by envy. Right. So that means the book he has is from Satella.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now the tomes that Roswell and Beatrice have are specifically from Echidna.
Correct.
Yes.
That's right.
And are the real deal. Whereas I got the impression that the cultist ones are like perverted versions of what they want.
Well, but that's another question I have is, if we're dealing with what is the real future? How can you say that one thing is the real future and the other isn't? Maybe it's Satella's version versus Echidna's.
I think the cultist books were real at the time they were written, but they don't change. I think the real tomes change based on reality at that moment.
Especially considering that Beatrice's went blank at a point.
Right. Which... my head went spinning, like, oh my god, has she been looking and reading a blank book this whole time?
Basically, for quite a while.
All right, we got to march forward.
So much to dig into here.
We needed a conspiracy mini-sode for this one.
Right? Yeah.
But yeah, now you guys know that I took this long hot shower today and just sat there with all these questions, and we're even uncovering more. But it's just like, I know this all fits together. How? Where does this connects? But that doesn't go there. Okay. All right.
Don't let the red wire and the blue wire touch. Oh, wrong show.
Boom.
Yeah. So it's a witch's graveyard. Roswell's like, hey, make sure you call the witch by her name, or I'll get mad at you. Subaru meets with the villagers, and so they have to have these 3 trials passed. And Emilia's the only one who's a candidate to do it, except for Subaru, who doesn't realize this anymore because he's had his memories erased. But Echidna made him also a candidate for the trials. Emilia goes to the villagers, says, I'm going to do this for you. They kind of make up, because if you remember from last season, they weren't on great terms. But now they're coming around to this. They're letting go of their racism. Good for them. Amelia goes to the trial. She goes inside. It lights up with these blue glowy lights, and they're like, "That means the trial started." And then they turn off. And they're like, "Wait, that's not supposed to happen." So Subaru goes running in, and as he's running in, they light up again, and he goes inside, and he sees Amelia on the ground, and then he passes out, and he wakes up, and he's back in his bed, back on Earth, in his bedroom, and his dad charges in and starts wrestling him. At least his dad is cut.
Yep.
He has those gutters from Rick and Morty. I won't say the full word. And then they go to breakfast, and the mom's there. They have this great breakfast scene of like, I made this American Japanese breakfast with a giant bowl
so
of peas,
good.
and they all argue like, you should eat the peas. No,
Yep.
why would you make peas for breakfast? If you made them, you should eat them.
No,
Basically,
I specifically don't like round, small objects as food.
basically, his parents are quirky.
Supremely. Yes.
Thoughts on mom and dad?
I was not expecting. So I love them, by the way, but I did not expect that this whole like not lackadaisio, but trying to jostle him, trying to engage him. This was all plays because he's stopped going to school and he's stopped acting like the kid he used to be, and his parents are trying to be as supportive as possible, and that nearly broke my heart. That they were doing this all to try and support their kid who was obviously going through a rough time, that he was not communicating well with them. Just made these scenes just that much more, just heartstrings getting pulled. This whole sequence was fantastic, by the way, that we had his character flaw he needed to take care of was his relationship with his parents. Wow. Didn't see that coming from fantastical world where you die and reset.
Yeah. I remember when I first saw the interactions of this family, I thought, okay, these are my two favorite characters. Just the way that they're behaving is so hysterical and entertaining and ridiculous. And you're absolutely right, Jason, that this is their way of trying to reach him. But I think that he does say one thing where he's like, why you guys never stopped, like you never stopped treating me the way that you've always treated me. So I think that this consistency, so that means he's been dealing with these parents acting like this all his life, and that explains so much about his personality and how goofy he is and how impulsive and quirky and off the wall he is sometimes. It just fits, whether it's his
angry
mom.
eyes.
yes, exactly. And he's also got like how she will sometimes just do really weird things, like, hey, do you want to eat mayonnaise with me? Like, what? And so it kind of, I think what that, in my mind at least, what that does for him is it helps him have that ability to just kind of break the ice, like come in from an angle people never expect, look at a problem, look at a situation, and don't do the predictable thing. And I think that's helped a lot. And then his dad's, strength and just that sort of perseverance, I guess, or maybe determination, just the resilience that his dad has, because he could very easily be repelled by his son's, depressed, sorrowful mood, but it doesn't get to him. He doesn't let it get to him. And we see that a lot in Subaru as well. That's the only way he would be able to keep doing this. He gets so much resilience and from these two very intriguing, quirky, interesting people.
Yeah, so I absolutely love the mom and dad. This whole story where like the dad takes him out walking, and he's clearly avoiding school. He stopped going altogether, but like if you mention school, he starts having a panic attack, and all that's coming back to him. And then he sits with his dad, and eventually he sees a vision of Amelia, and he gets his memories of the anime back. And he tells his dad like, "Oh, I actually have met a girl," and then he explains to his dad why he's been the way he is. And I know I've told you guys, and I've probably already said it before, but just the fact that this isekai is like, hey, you're staying at home and just being a guy who could go to a fantasy world without a care was a flaw. There was a problem. Him explaining where this problem came from and giving a very realistic thing of of like I was the greatest, but then it got harder, so I just started acting out, but then that didn't really work, so then I just kind of was goofy and hiding in the background, and then realizing that's exactly the Subaru we met in the first couple of episodes when he's being so goofy with Amelia and posing, and also with the quirkiness of his dad and all that layered in, and realizing, man, this Subaru's quirks and layers weren't just random thrown in by an author. This guy who really thought about why a guy would be like this and end up in a isekai world. Absolutely love this episode. I got really emotional during the mom and dad talk. The line, "Don't worry about it, son," like everything's funny. He's like, "Don't worry about it, son. You just, take care of me and your mom when you're older." And him breaking down like, "I can't do that. I'm stuck in a fantasy world, Dad."
Yeah.
And that's so good. And then also the emotional goodbye to his mom, and then his mom says the same thing she actually said to him when he walked out to go to the convenience store before he was teleported to our world. This is a great episode. And then to get to that resolution of like, he puts on a school uniform. I'm going to high school. His mom walks him, but he goes to high school. And when he gets inside there, only a Echidna is there. And she's like, "Hey, how was that talking to your parents? You think that's what they really would have said? Realize none of this was real. Tell me about your experience."
Uh-huh.
I think my favorite part of the ending of this particular story arc was that he thanked Echidna for giving him the chance to have that resolution, even though he knew it wasn't real, it was just in his head. I don't think any other anime would have gone that direction. It would have been like some slight, or how dare you take my memories like that. And I loved this approach of, you helped fix me, even though this was your trial. Thank you. This was great. And it really also took Echidna back. She was just like, "Whoa, what?"
Yeah. It really shows a level of introspection from Subaru that you rarely see in characters, where they're aware of, I needed this. That helped me so much. And even though you're the bad guy, quote unquote, maybe you really are, I don't know, but even though you're the bad guy in this situation, I'm still going to thank you because I needed that. And that was, that was
you don't
really cool.
see that in anime.
No.
This whole episode is just, it puts this isekai in first place above all else, and everyone else is competing for second. It's so different, but also visualize like, man, isekai need this. This is important.
Yeah,
this matters. So, all right. He finds out there's only the first of 3 trials. He wakes up and he's next to Amelia, and then she's also experiencing visions of the past, just like he did. But when she wakes up, she's like in a panic. She's crying. She's freaking out. So she is not.
I have a question.
Okay.
I'm gonna raise my hand like I'm in school. Her trial ended when the light went out. That's my opinion, because that's what they gave the impression of. The light's not supposed to do that, and then it lit up again when Subaru ran in. I think she failed her trial, and something else is happening during the time that the light's lit, and he's in there taking his trial. I think she's going through something else. I don't think she's in her
he
trial.
wakes up and the lights are still on.
I think it's because of his presence, because he hasn't failed and it's ready for him to do stage 2.
That's true. Because later on, if anyone tries to go into the trial, it messes them up.
Yep.
We give it the Mythbuster plausible seal.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Anyway, they take her back to the village. Otto's like, "Hey, maybe we could just put everyone in the back of a wagon, and they'll pass out, but we'll carry them out." And then she says she's this little old lady, but she looks like a little girl. She enters in, and she's like, "No, that's a terrible idea because it actually will rip their soul out. You'll be killing them." And I was like, "Well, I was just trying." But this character is Ryuzu, who is, she says, the caretaker of the village, the keeper of the sanctuary.
Mm-hmm.
Any quick thoughts on her? She doesn't really have an arc or anything, but obviously she's.
I like their.
She's fascinating.
Yeah, I like that, where they come from, and that they're tied to anyone touched by greed. But beyond that, they don't they're not particularly fleshed out in the episodes that we got so far, but I great addition to the cast.
I love that they know exactly what they are.
Mm-hmm.
They know what their strengths and weaknesses are. And again, we're saying they because there's multiple Ryuzu. I mean, we've already kind of spilled that. And so it's fascinating to me how this little group of characters defines themselves. It actually delves into that whole concept of what do you do with clones? And I think it does a good job with it. It's really cool.
I have to take a quick potty break. Be right back.
Okay. You gotta leave that in.
What I want to say about Ryuzu is just that a clone story in the middle of our epic fantasy. All right, cool. Didn't see that.
Toss that in. Why not?
Exactly. Yeah, I was wondering if she was just pulling like a Naruto thing in the intro where we see that there's a multitude of her, and I'm like, oh, okay, so it's a multitude Naruto thing.
Maybe I'm dumb, but I am so caught off guard by so many surprises that I realize are in the OP.
Yeah,
I do the same thing.
Villain characters coming back. I was like, oh my god, they're back, and then they're in the OP.
They're in? Yeah,
I can't do that. Okay. So Amelia has a nice touchy moment with Subaru where she like reaches out and touches his arm when she wakes up, and then she's like, "Oh, I'm so embarrassed. Why would I do that?" We learned that not everyone in Sanctuary wants to leave. There's a conservative party, their words, not mine, to stay. That's why I said like Garfield's kind of neutral in this, even though he seems to be the one pushing to get everyone out. But he multiple times mentions like I'm neutral, so I don't really get that. And then we have another conversation with Roswell where basically Subaru is like, "Why'd you leave? You knew the witch's cult was gonna come. You had to know the consequences of your actions."
I love that he asked this question because it's like that's the question we asked.
Yes.
Yeah, and Roswell's like, well, I figured if you and Amelia defeated the witch's cult, that would really help her with public opinion, and it seems to have worked. And this is when I was like, oh, he knows. He's figured it out. Because, I mean, Subaru even says, how could you have known I could handle this when I was such a loser the last time you saw me? Clearly, when the whale arc story started, Subaru was not a character capable of handling it and had to evolve into one. And he's pointing that out to Roswell, and Roswell's like, I just had faith. Like, no, you knew. You know. They get Garfield to agree to allow the villagers to go. This is after some time has passed. And so Subaru and Otto take the villagers. They go back to the village, and then he goes to the mansion to check on Rem and the others, and no one's there. Every single door is open. He runs around to find Rem, and before you know it, classic, oh, my stomach's open. I'm on the floor dying.
I tripped on something. What did I trip on this time?
And wouldn't you know it, Elsa the assassin is back.
Yep.
This is one of the first jaw on the floor. I was like, and again, she's in the OP. I should have known, but I was like, I didn't think we'd see her for so long. You know, she just disappeared after her first arc in season 1, and now she's this major antagonistic force again. Guys, thoughts on Elsa this season?
She was just as terrifying as in the first.
Yeah.
I love that she's got some unexplained powers that we are not sure of, but that her really only killing ability is her blade. I loved that it was her that came in and is ruining things at the mansion. It just fits so well. But yeah, she's just as well earned as a bad guy in this season as she was in the last season. Like, ooh, I've never seen what a fairy looks like on the inside. I was like,
Yep. And it's really fascinating to me because it's like, oh well, maybe the guy who's purchasing her has assassin on retainer. You know, why is she coming back in? Because
like
I was thinking,
lawyer.
Yeah, exactly. Because I was thinking they could have used a new character. But then they would have had to waste time introducing them. They would have had to develop this new character, make them into something important, string them into the story. It worked really well having Elsa be this character. And it didn't come across as a sort of, oh, you just needed somebody, so you slapped her in there either. She fit, and I think she fits in the story really well as far as, like, you know, why she was there the first time.
Without spoiling it, I love that in the last time we watched the first season, we called out a particular character that comes back as Elsa's accomplice, and that was so well earned. I was like, oh my god, there she is.
Yep.
And we called it like, oh, why haven't we seen this character yet?
Yep.
Agreed with everything you guys said. Like, I was just so happy she was back. So we then get a return by death, and we learn that this new save point is set right after he completes the first trial. One thing, we don't really have time. I wanted to mention, though, this is like the only time we've seen a return by death a save point that only happened once, right? Which is the wagons with Amelia, which made me think, how many save points are we passing where he gets it right the first time? I guess I just always assumed that every time we pass a return point, he would have to die and figure out that save point, almost like levels in a video game. But maybe they're even smaller than we initially thought, or what could be triggering them. If it's possible he could have a one and done, it's possible he's literally passing saving points. That's just a random thought I had.
That's true.
Yeah, and this particular one can go upwards of 5 days, and he still comes back to Amelia. So, and it's just real quickly, they did it fantastic in the first season. They're doing it again in the second. We are traveling to very few locations, unlike other isekai or fantasy style anime, where they're continually having to change the location to keep things interesting. They are able to tell fantastic stories in what could seem like this is going to get boring because we're in the same spot. In the first season, it was the mansion. Here, it's the sanctuary, and
Right. We've been to the capital, the mansion, the village outside the mansion, and now we're in the woods that are next to the mansion. Like, it's not that far. It's a half a day's ride into the Lost Woods. Do. But
I was actually thinking about this today. That the fact that they have this long span of time, like you're pointing out, where he only dies once. You know, when he kills himself and goes back to the wagon, and that's it. Doesn't die any other times. He goes through so much time. There's like 4 episodes that go by where he does not kill himself or die. And I kept wondering, I was like, wow, why are they waiting so long to have the defining thing from this anime happening?
Right.
Because that's what we're all interested in, is how's he going to fix problems? And the only way that he can is by redoing this. So why haven't they done that? And it just clicked in my head that it was because they needed a really good base where these new characters got introduced, where the pacing was calmed down, the new environment got introduced. They could cleanse the palette basically and present us with, this is the new situation. And they did that with like the first 4 episodes, 4.5 episodes or so. And then they could be like, okay, are you ready? Are you ready? Here we go. I've been thinking cresting the top of the roller coaster.
I've been thinking it as the puzzle room he has to solve, right? And the clues are everyone's motivations, figure out how to make them all align just right, and then he can get through. But I'm the exact same thing, that he set up this new puzzle for him, get all the pieces into the right spot, all the traps, okay, and go.
Yep, exactly.
And go we have. So he wakes up at the first trial again. This time he tells the group that he has passed the trial, and suggests he does the trial. And Garfield's like, nope, that's dumb. So Garfield in the last loop had said, why don't you did the trial, didn't you? And why don't you do it for Amelia? So this time at the beginning, he's like, hey guys, I'll do the trial. And Garfield's like, no.
And Amelia gets pissed.
Yeah, Amelia gets offended. But he's looking at Garfield like, wait, what? I thought you were the guy who wanted... I'm confused. And yeah, you gotta be careful, Garfield. He is fickle.
Yep.
So he needs to get to the mansion faster, so he asks Roswell for help, and he sends Roms with him. They say goodbye to Garfield, but this time Garfield last time gave him it's the exact same stone. It's a different necklace, but it looks exactly the same as the blue stone that Frederica had given him. This time he gives it to him again, hesitantly. It takes Rom, who Garfield has a huge crush on, literally asking for it, and he's like, "Fine, take it." I don't really get the whole point of these necklaces. That's another big mystery mark because they're definitely connected to Echidna. One, they seem like they're not always helpful.
Yep.
Did they ever say what their purpose is?
It
Well, we
seems
see
like they
one
would.
used as a key.
Yes.
Yeah, I thought it was safe passage through the barrier, but then also it like lets you know where the barrier is.
Okay, so it's kind of like a guiding totem.
Kind of, but there's also some other importance that both Garfield and Frederica are not talking about.
Right, and like Jeremy said, we know it also has a key to one spot, and we've seen it work as a teleport trap multiple times.
I think they said there's a lost wood surrounding the sanctuary that you have to be in possession of one of them in order to find your way through, too. Something like that.
Okay. But I think later they get out. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that's true.
They definitely
Jerry.
get out
Stop it,
without
Jerry.
one in a later one.
Right. Okay.
So unreliable narrator again? I don't know.
I love it.
All right. So they
Yeah.
get on the way to the mansion. He hasn't told Rom this whole time about Rem because she doesn't remember her. And he's kind of asked, and it's meant nothing. And this time he tells her, like, "Hey, by the way, you have a twin sister who you love more than anything in the whole world, and you can't remember her, just so you know." So they get to the mansion. Everything's fine. Petra, Frederica are there.
Well, he spends the entire trip there describing her and explaining to her what their relationship was, too. So it's like off screen, there's so much depth of like, do you remember, Ram? Do you remember?
I should also mention that Frederica is suspect
Yeah.
one in their book right now because of him getting teleported. They thought that was a trap meant for Amelia, so he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna confront Frederica." But they get there, they check on Rem. Rom's like, "Can I have some alone time with her?" Then he confronts Frederica. He's like, "I know you had that trap," and she's like, "I have no idea what you're talking about." And he's like, "Wait, you don't?" And she's like, "No, but I do have a secret, and I can't tell you." And so Rom comes in, and she's like, "Well, we're gonna kidnap you and take you to the sanctuary." And she's like, "Well, I guess I can't stop that." And apparently, that will give her the workaround to be able to tell them what they need to know, because she's under contract or a pledge.
Something
She
has
said
bound
something about
her,
a
so she
vow,
can't
I
speak.
think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. But it doesn't work because Elsa shows up and she starts attacking them, and she's really powerful. She's really hard to beat. They oh man, this scene. They managed to get away at first, and he's like, "We gotta go back for Rem," and Rom's like, "No, we're not doing that. That's dumb." And they convince her, "Okay, we'll go back," but Frederica is gonna change into her beast form, so she strips down, and goes to fight Elsa on her own. They go back for Rem, but they get attacked by a Maw Beast now. A Maw Beast is also in the mansion. And Elsa again, I
I'm
mentioned,
so confused
you're
about
here
that
early.
at first.
Yeah, me
Yep.
too.
Yeah. Red.
Yep.
And so Rom takes on the Maw Beast, and he's alone with Petra. Then the floor collapses. He grabs her. They fall out, and then he's like half conscious, and he hears
This
Rom
was
fighting.
so cool.
They grab him and throw. We've seen it from like his fuzzy point of view. Like he gets thrown back into the mansion through a window,
It's upside down. It's twisting. It's awkward.
and he looks down at Petra's hand, and he's still holding it, except for Petra's not there no more. It's just
Yep.
the hand. And then another jaw on the floor, and he starts just roaming the mansion, hand in hand.
Yep.
Until Elsa finds him, and he's like, "Okay, I'm gonna die. That's fine, but I need to check on Rem first. I'm gonna try to save Rem if I can." But all of a sudden, he gets sucked into the library, and Beatrice saves him, and he's like, "No!"
Oh, dude.
Why did you save me? Why'd you? And then Beatrice says, "Oh, the reason that you wanted to be out there is already gone."
Yeah. And
Yeah.
this is where he finds out that she's following a book, and she starts. He's
Beatrice
like, "Oh,
says.
yeah, Beatrice." Yeah, he's like, "Yeah, I thought we were friends. I thought all that was real, and you're just following a script and blah blah blah." And then Elsa comes in and he tries to save Beatrice, and Elsa kills him again.
And it sounds silly, like in that kind of a circumstance for him to be like, "Oh, I thought we were friends and everything." Like, how is that important? But remembering the trauma of the encounter with Betelgeuse and how insane Betelgeuse was, it made perfect sense for Subaru to look at her as she was clinging to her own gospel version, even though it's not a gospel, and to see that craziness and to impose Betelgeuse on top of her and be like, "You're just like them." It made perfect sense for him to react that way and to focus on this and be so shocked. It was like event piling upon event piling upon event for this panic, and it was just the crescendo was amazing in this episode.
And then he's back with Amelia.
Yep.
Yep.
So this time he kind of tells everyone like, "Okay, I'm gonna get to Roswell and I'm gonna do all this stuff." And Garfield's like, "Okay, but before you do that, could you come to the woods with me?"
I was like, oh god.
And they go and they talk to Ryuzu, and he asks them like, "Okay, but how did Frederica leave?" And they're like, "Well, she's not a true half-blood. She's actually a quarter-blood, and the rules are strictly half-blood. If you have a slightly different mix, you can come and go." And he's like, "Okay, guys, thanks for helping me." And they're like, "Okay, but now we're gonna kidnap you."
Yeah.
And imprison you.
And they do. They bound him, they tie him up, they throw him in a prison cell in some ruins, and he's left there for 3 days. The villagers are searching for him. We see
Ryuzu is dutifully coming in and feeding him.
he's trying to find a way to kill himself, but he can't manage to do it. And we see Garfield try to pay off Otto. And then 3 days later, Otto finds him and unties him and has been like, "Yeah, they tried to pay me off." And I said, "No." So he's been hunting for me, and I've been hiding for 3 days. So I finally was able to get you.
I love that scene. He's behind a bush with like 2 branches like this, and
Yeah.
Rom's looking at him like, "What are you doing?"
He learns Amelia's been trying the trial over and over. She didn't want to at first since he disappeared, but they convinced her to do it. But they're like, "Okay, well, while the trial's going on, Garfield will be gone." They go meet up with Rem. It's time to escape. And he's like, "Well, first, I'm talking to Roswell." So we have another conversation with Roswell, and he asks him about, is Beatrice part of the witch cult? Roswell's like, "Oh no, that would not make sense, would it?"
Oh God.
But
Are
yeah,
you an enemy? Oh, we have. I have a goal to meet, and I'm going to like no straight answers from Roswell there.
yeah. And then when they go to escape, Garfield does find them. So Rom tries to fight him off while they jump onto the dragon and start riding away, and the villagers are all lighting the way for him. Except for Garfield has gone into his beast form, which is a giant tiger man who's
Yep.
like 10 feet tall, running through the forest, knocks him down, and he goes to kill Subaru, and Otto tries to save him, and Otto dies. And then he just starts killing villagers, like trying to get to Subaru. And Subaru teleports back to the prison cell when he hits the barrier.
Yeah.
And so he wakes up in the prison cell. He goes outside, and there's a small rabbit
Snow.
in the
There's
snow.
snow
Yeah, there's
everywhere.
snow everywhere, and there's this cute little bunny.
Yep. Just
And
got one little horn.
And he reaches to
So,
touch the cute little bunny.
Hold on. So like, all we know of this rabbit so far is that Gluttony created it, and
We don't
that.
know that yet.
But we don't know that. We just
Oh, we don't know that.
We know
Because I
nothing
thought we knew
about
about
this
the
rabbit.
3 beasts.
Nope.
Oh, we don't know about that yet. Okay.
Nope.
We just
And
see
all he's done is like he's walked around and everybody's gone. Like they've all left the barrier. The place is free. They all got out. Is what we're led to think.
and winter is here. So how
Yeah.
much time has passed? This is weird.
Exactly.
There's a little bunny. He goes to pet it, and his hand is gone. And he sees his fingers get sucked into the bunny's mouth. And then there's more bunnies and more bunnies.
And his leg is gone.
It is my honest fear to die being bitten by little things over and over. Like piranhas as a kid was like
Yes.
terrifying to me. So watching this was hard. This is literally one of my fears of death. And he gets bitten and chewed up until he dies.
And I love that you sent the Holy Grail gif after that.
Yeah, anyone who's seen Monty Python and the Holy Grail had to think of that scene. You just have to,
yeah.
right?
Absolutely.
Jesus Christ.
So yeah, he returns by death. He's back after the first test. He starts bashing his head, asking why, what do I do, what? And so when you go to Echidna's, and he goes back to the witch's tea party. It's actually your doing. You're asking her for information. So by being in there and asking for information, he has triggered it and he has gone back. And he realizes she knows what's happening. And then she's like, you can tell me. And he does. He's like, I can return by death. And nothing happens. He doesn't
Oh, and not only does he tell her, he just goes into a cathartic breakdown of just repeatedly, again and again, I can return by death. 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 And she's like, I know, I understand. Yeah. And he just goes until he breaks down weeping. And this one, I felt, man, this was so good.
And then she says, tell me everything. Which, in hindsight, is way creepier now.
Yes, way creepier. It makes so much sense now. It's not compassion. Not at all, because she has no empathy.
All right, so yeah, he does. He talks with her, and she tells him, you died from the great rabbit. There was the great whale, which you've already defeated, but there's 3 giant beasts. There's the great whale, great rabbit, and the black serpent.
Yeah.
And this is, she's like, well, the whale was giant. This thing is about quantity. And the only way to defeat it is you have to kill every single one of them all at once, because it can multiply instantly.
By itself.
Which is funny, because the whale could go to make 3.
But they were invisible copies, right? Or not invisible, but like illusions?
They had mass, I thought.
Oh, you're right, they did.
Mm-hmm. But there was no body left behind when they died.
Right. There was only one at the end, but yeah. All right. Anyway, so she's like, well, one thing we could do is we could call in the other witch, Daphne, the one who created it, and she could tell you about it. Don't touch her. Don't release her, and try not to make eye contact. And she also says, this is my world, but I can allow another witch to take my place, but there can only be one of us at a time here. So she leaves, and this little girl appears, and her name is Typhon, the Witch of Pride, and she's like, "Can I hold your hand?"
So literally.
And she takes his arm off, and she's like, "Oh, that didn't hurt you. You're a good person." And then he just shatters into little pieces, and then she disappears, and another witch appears, Minerva, the Witch of Wrath, who angrily heals him.
Punches him to healing.
This is where I was like, there's something not quite right with our assumption the witches are evil, because she's like angrily a healer.
Right.
Yeah.
That doesn't fit. Anyway.
The most angry cleric ever.
Exactly.
But eventually he does get to Daphne, who is like in this, what are they called? The boxes that...
Iron Maiden.
Like an Iron Maiden?
Yeah, an Iron Maiden with legs.
Apparently this thing's not only alive, but it's a maw beast in of itself.
It looks like one.
So this is where he asks her, like, why did you make these things? She's like, well, because they would be food. He's like, but they eat us. She's like, well, that's only fair. But she reveals that the rabbits are pulled to mana. So if you had a strong magic user, you could draw them all into one area. They are a hive mind, so they will not think to, they're not going to play by thing rules and keep something safe for later. They will all rush in, and you can kill them all at once. That is her advice. But she does really like the smell of him and really feeling hungry.
Yep.
Then Echidna returns, and she says that she's not really interested in Emilia passing the trial. She wants Subaru to do it. And he asked if he can keep his memories this time. She says, okay, but I'm going to need that handkerchief of yours, not physically, but symbolically, as a gift, the one that Petra tied onto his thing. And so she
Did we mention he's also consumed the tea?
I'm sure I skipped it over. Yes.
Okay, because that does become important later. But yeah, he's had her bottle
Twice.
of fluid tea.
Yep.
Twice now.
Yeah.
So then he's sent back. He wakes up. She does tell him if he needs to come back, he needs to have a stronger desire to ask questions than this time. Every time you come, it has to be stronger than the last time before.
But there's another way to see her, and that's to finish a trial.
Yeah, if he does the trial, he'll get to see her.
Kind of feels like it's a little arbitrary, and she's just making up rules
Yeah.
to mess with him.
And then
Yeah, it
things just like this is a lot of information, and you're reeling. And then he wakes back up, and Emilia's not there, and he goes outside, and there's just black surrounding everything.
Okay. I know why this happened. Do you remember when she said, "Go ahead and tell me," and he says, "You're not going to like it. You're not going to like what happens." And then he starts to tell her, and we do see the witch's hands come for his heart, but they never reach him. Because she says later, "How did you get in here? You even got through my barriers to the Castle of Dreams." So I believe that because he told her at that moment,
She was coming.
the witch was trying to get him, couldn't, and wound up inside the barrier in Sanctuary.
So, like Jeremy's implying, Satella is here. The Witch of Envy has arrived in the flesh. And she climbs up the stairs to him, and she's like, I love you. I love you.
And it's Emilia's voice.
Yeah. And it's written on the screen, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you. And to the point where my wife looked at me and is like, what's happening? And I'm like, don't worry about it. Go back to your video game. Garfield saves him. And we learn from Garfield that everyone else is basically dead. We do see Roswell die. We see the dark. He's holding his own tome, and the darkness like swallowing him up. And he say like, "Subaru, I really hope you get it right next time."
God, I love this line. This line made me so happy. It's so cool. Also, Subaru asked Garfield about everybody else, and while he said everybody else died, he wouldn't answer him regarding Emilia.
Yeah, Jeremy's very much onto something that's strongly hinted at, but I don't think confirmed, but very
Correct.
strongly hinted at.
Yeah.
Anyway, they end up chasing after the witch. They think it's going towards the mansion. They get a group of Ryuzus together that are like basically kamikaze bombs that they can send at it. But they lose the fight. Satella kills them all except for Subaru. She's telling again, I love you. And he's like, I would rather love all those other witches than you. That was a mistake. Because she swallows him up. This is the first, and he goes inside of her. Basically, he's in this black foreverness, and he's like, she's gonna just love me forever in here. This is I was so happy about this because now there's a threat to Subaru. This is something Return by Death can't fix. It does, but only because things have been set up.
Yeah.
There is now a piece on the game board that is a threat to him because this is permanent if it gets him. But the handkerchief starts to glow. It turns into a blade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he commits suicide, which pops him out of the darkness, and he grabs at the hood of Satella and pulls it down and sees her face, which looks like Emilia with bangs.
Yep.
And
so
then
I have a theory on that.
Okay.
Because she takes the exact same form in the Castle of Dreams later, spoiler, I honestly think the reason so many people assume Emilia is the Witch of Envy is because I think they're one and the same, and they separated. And I think that's the reason when Satella came for Subaru, but Subaru wasn't there, was able to re-inhabit her old body.
So we had theorized in season 1 that the cult is trying to put Satella into Emilia.
Emilia. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that would go along with that.
And what
happens
happens
because they look so similar, like not just they're both elves, like facial features and eye patterns and everything look so similar.
Everything is the same.
My thought is they are one and the same person, and a long time ago they split.
So how would they split? Make a barrier that holds the soul in and take the body away.
Interesting. We've already established that.
If they did that to Satella and Emilia is the empty body, that has for years been somehow they impregnated it with some kind of personality, or maybe it grew one itself.
Nice
I
word
knew
choice.
you'd like that word. I could see that being Amelia being the product of that. I could totally see your theory working with that.
Hmm.
All right. When he wakes up from the return by death this time, he's afraid to touch Amelia.
Not consciously.
Right.
Like his teeth are just chattering like crazy. Like he is the one freaking out the way Amelia was freaking
Yeah,
out
she
before.
she comforts him when she wakes up,
Mhm.
which kind of makes it worse a little bit at first.
Yep.
Um,
Oh,
No. Oh no.
Oh, I got
Okay.
Jeremy back.
Yep, I see you.
Oh no.
And Troy,
Yep.
we see you.
Troy?
I'm here,
That was weird.
Okay.
We're still recording.
but I also hear my echo now.
Uh-oh.
Hold on. I think it's gone. I think we're good.
Leg spike.
Okay, that was scary. We should
Mhm.
push
That was
forward.
Yeah.
I did want to say though that right before he died, he promised to save her.
Yes.
He says
Yeah.
to Satella, "I promise I'll save you." But again, like you pointed out, he's talking to Amelia because he sees Amelia.
Yep.
All right. Oh yeah, this is a big crying scene that Jeremy Jeremy had a problem with his crying, and then they call him out on it. Like, you cried in front of her, dude.
Actually, it was a later scene, but yes, this scene was similar.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
He talks with Rom that night, and he's like, "I need you to distract Garfield." Because when he was in Satella, he saw the memories of everyone she had absorbed. So he got some images, and so he goes exploring, and he finds some new ruins, and the blue stone acts as a key to open a door where, hey, it's Ryuzu in a crystal just like a giant version of the one on the necklaces. And then a couple of Ryuzus come in, the one in the black robes who's like the leader of the Ryuzus. And they tell him, hey, we're clones. We were created by Echidna basically for immortality, so she could put her soul in. It didn't work. So we are kind of just these slightly soulless magic clones, and we try to develop our own personality quirks. I drink tea. Aren't I special? Which is
and I come up
interesting,
with
though.
last names.
Right. But I do think
This
that
one's
was...
not bodily fluid.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
he has the ability to command them because he has swallowed the bodily fluid of the witch, which is why they also do what Garfield tells him, because he's also been chosen as an apostle of Echidna, which means he's had at least done a trial. So
Yeah, at least one.
So, he asked her, "Don't tell Garfield that I know this or that I can do this. Please keep this part a secret." And she does, because he gets to tell her what to do. He has a nice moment with Amelia in the moonlight. Again, she's my bae, so I like this.
You look like a fairy. How dare you?
Those are horrible creatures. That night after going to bed, he gets up super early. He writes a letter to Amelia explaining that he's going back to the mansion. And then he sneaks off. Garfield catches him. He provokes Garfield by saying something bad about Amelia, and then basically reveals, "I'm just seeing what pisses you off because I need to figure this out." And Garfield's like, "Dude, I would have killed you." He's like, "Yeah, I kind of know that." There's also a great animation scene where we're seeing them in each other's eyes back and forth while they're talking. It was so good.
Yeah.
And then Garfield lets him go. He goes back to the mansion. He asks all the maids to leave to the village, so they all leave. And then he goes to Beatrice's room, and she tells him she's ready to end her contract. And people have been... Roswell's been telling him, "Hey, to get Beatrice to do what you want, just tell her you're that person." And she basically reveals here that her contract was with Echidna to watch this library until that person showed up, but she doesn't know who that person is, and it's been way longer than it should have been, and she's
400 years.
so done. and she basically needs him to. She asks him to kill her, and it's this really emotional scene. And she also has this line of like, "Well, then make me the priority. Basically, let me be the person you care about the most. And if you can't do that, then kill me, because there's no other reason for me to stay here."
Dude, I had to take a break from this episode. Like this is the first time this ever happened to me watching anime. I was broken. I couldn't believe it.
See, this is where to me I was like, who is this? This is not Beatrice. This is not season 1 Beatrice. But then I remembered how broken she looked when she got that gospel and said, "Oh, you left me behind, fatal juice." So to me, what it comes across as is her loneliness that she's been experiencing for so long. She's been able to just kind of keep in check, but that thing broke her. That just broke her. And ever since she got it, she's been dwelling on it all this time. However long he's been over in the sanctuary, it's probably been a day or two. She's probably just been going through in her mind, what a waste of time. It's never going to end. The people that I knew are dying. They're gone. The people that I cared about, whatever.
The pages are no longer giving me anything.
Yes. Yeah. And we're not even aware of that yet, but yeah.
This is that conversation where he pulls open the book and sees it's blank. And I was like, wait, I thought this was telling you what to do. She's like, yeah, it hasn't for years.
Yep.
God. And then the way the animation is where she's got her arms held up at him, crying her eyes out, and he can't reach out to her.
Yeah. And then there's this level of desperation that she has where it's not even that she's enamored by him. It's not even that she likes him that much. It's just that she's at the point where she's just like, somebody give me, somebody love me.
So not only did I have to take a break, but then when I come back, who do I see march through the door?
Elsa walks in. Oh my God. I absolutely love this though. Because they're like, Elsa, he's like, Elsa, how are you finding this secret room? Because remember, this is a teleporting room in the mansion. She's like, I opened every door in the mansion, so it has to be the last door. I'm like, oh my God, I would have never thought of that. They established those rules long ago. I've seen that season twice. That didn't even occur to me. That's so smart. God, she's evil.
God, so evil.
They managed to get away from her. It's actually Beatrice who does the smokescreen spell. And they're running out, and these mobbies get in their way. And who appears but Mealy, the little girl from season 1 who had the dog mobbies attack the village and was the big problem. Remember, she just disappeared. Yeah, she's the other assassin, and she's working with Elsa.
And she's a mobbies controller.
Yep. Elsa catches
Pokemon.
Yeah, exactly.
Elsa catches up to him. Beatrice fights her. Beatrice kills her. I wrote down, looks like. She dies. You see her body crystallize and shatter.
Yeah.
They turn around to fight Mealy. Subaru stalls her. Is like, I'm not comfortable with killing a kid.
I was like, what are you doing, Subaru?
Yeah, exactly.
And then Elsa kills Beatrice. Knife in the back, slices her in half. What?
How?
And I thought she got hit in the left arm. Now, something's up with her right arm, and I think it got damaged in the first season. And so there's something going on with her right arm. She mentioned it, too. But this one seemed like it got her in the left arm. So, again, we watched her die. It blew my mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because essentially what happens is Beatrice hits her hand first with this shadow magic, which causes her hand to crystallize. So we know, because she then is like, oh, crap. Well, that was bad. I overestimated Beatrice. She even says that. And then her hand just shatters. And so we know that it's attached to her when it shatters. And so then we
there's
just
a
get
cloud
the
of
entire
like purple smoke.
We
and then when the smoke
we see her
goes
body
down, there's like her top torso crystallized and the rest of her body in pieces. And even Mealy goes, oh, I guess she wasn't as powerful as I thought she was.
We gotta keep moving, but I feel like in season 1 there's something similar to this in one of the, like when they beat her, that there was we beat her and then she miraculously survives it somehow. And maybe we all just kind of accepted it. But I bet if we rewatch that now, after having seen this, we'd be like, oh, it was hinted at.
Yeah, she's dead, but she got out of that too. That's very possible.
Okay.
And of course, the look of relief on Beatrice's face was so heartbreaking.
Yeah,
Oh, God,
so Beatrice
yes.
is dying in his arms. Elsa starts kicking him, pokes him in the eye with her knife.
Uh-huh.
Oh, and then Beatrice looks like she cast a healing spell on him, but he teleports back to the prison in
The sanctuary.
Sanctuary. Yeah. So I didn't know if she teleported him or if the stone activated.
So I think that either Roswell or Beatrice enchanted the stone to do the teleporting. I think the magic of doing the teleporting, they can just do.
Just activate it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. He wakes up in the prison. It's snowing again. he goes out and he finds Garfield.
Isn't
Trying to make sure I
Amelia
didn't say
doing the trial? And so he goes in to
Yeah,
see her?
you're right. He does find Amelia in the trial, and she's like, "I'm so happy to see you, and I love you, Subaru." And
She
she's
has
hugging him.
glowing purple
She has
eyes.
glowing purple eyes. So I do think she's possessed at this point. They call out she's crazy, but I don't think that's accurate. And I think we've already said that. You guys have already said that. So yeah, he goes out, and Garfield's like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "She just said she loves me." Garfield gets ready to kill him for this. By the way, if you notice.
Yeah.
And he goes, "No, you're not paying attention. She won't say that to me. She would never say that to me. That's not Amelia." Then he goes and he talks to Roswell. Says, "You're the one making it snow, aren't you?" And Roswell's like, "I guess I kind of am."
Oh, you got me.
Roswell, and I'm going through this fast, but Roswell kills Garfield through Rom, killing them both.
Yeah.
There's more to that scene. Like Garfield doesn't die right away. He tries to heal Rom and then gets destroyed. And Roswell's thing is, look, I wasn't gonna beat him any other way.
Yeah.
That was
Rom was she was a dutiful servant.
This is when
Yeah, me
Roswell
saying it now. Dang it. Ram was a dutiful servant.
going with the English dub. It's what I've
Sure.
heard for a week. Yeah, so this is where Roswell lays out his plan. I know I know you time loop. I have a tome that tells me what to do. I have a goal I'm working for. I'm using.
Oh no.
I lost you guys again.
Yeah, same thing.
Oh, we're back.
We're back.
Mm.
He's using the snow to isolate Amelia from the others so that she'll rely more on Subaru. Basically, Subaru, do what's in my book, or I'll gunk up the whole thing and ruin it and make you try again.
But you can't know what's in my book.
Right,
I'm not going to tell you.
Yeah, and I won't tell you what my goal is, but I have a goal. He really claims like I'm doing this for I have a reason. It's not mustache twirling evil. I'm driven towards a reason. Remember how I said like Beetlejuice felt like he could be Subaru in the future?
Yeah.
Same thing with Roswell. Obviously, I know they're not, but this felt like I could be what you become. That obsession with getting your goal.
And Roswell even wants him to. He's like,
Yes.
You got to become like me.
You got to focus on your goal, figure out what you want, which he knows is helping Amelia, right?
Yeah.
The rabbits.
What's interesting is that the key difference between them, because you're right, they're extremely similar already, even. The key difference between them is that Roswell is totally fine with making sacrifices. He has already come to the conclusion that he can't have everything. He's got to have just one thing, and he wants to anchor everything around that one thing. And whatever can survive, that's great. Let it survive. But if it has to be sacrificed in order to attain that one thing or to protect it or whatever it is he's trying to do, it can all go away.
Subaru is trying to save everybody.
Exactly. Subaru is greedy.
Maybe Roswell can't defeat the dragon on his own, and he needs Satella to do it. And he can't, and he wants to install Amelia as ruler, turn her Satella, and use Subaru to get her to kill the dragon.
Maybe. Could be trying to recreate the hero, the dragon, and whatever in the past using
When Roswell
there's lots
says
of-
he has a goal, I don't think it's kill the dragon. I think the dragon is a step towards that goal.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
And I do think it's in some kind of service to Echidna. This is all Echidna's property that he's now the caretaker of, and I don't think that's a coincidence.
Yeah.
Even though
that's
Echidna
true.
is long since dead and only exists in a dream world.
Right, but remember, you refer to her by her name.
Yeah.
She's important to him.
He's a 400-year-old zealot, basically.
I love that a bunny comes crashing through the window at this point too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I'm pretty sure now the bunny is coming because of the huge snow spell. I think that's what's
Yeah.
Right.
drawing the bunny.
Mhm.
But yeah, so and then Roswell's like, "Hey, I'm gonna go die now. Good luck to my next version. Hope he gets what he wants." Subaru, get it
Yeah.
right. And we've already mentioned the scene. He gets torn up by the rabbits. We then see Subaru go back to Amelia, who's still crazy. I love you, Subaru. Lay in my lap, and he does, and she's like doting on him, and
He
then
is bleeding out at this
he's-
point.
gouged
Yep.
everywhere, and she
Slowly zooms out.
kisses him, and he dies.
The kiss of death.
The kiss of
Yep.
death.
Or maybe it was A Taste of Death. I can't remember what the name of the episode was, but that had to do with that.
So he wakes up again, and he goes to see Echidna in the tea party. Oh no! But instead, the second trial. Yeah, he goes back in, but the second trial starts, and he has to see. He has to see.
Dude,
So this is the
amazing.
trial of the present, and it's timelines where after he dies. So the first one we see is at the beginning when he committed suicide to help Rem, but we see everyone reacting to that, like, oh, Amelia's freaking.
You liar! You liar!
Amelia's freaking out. Wilhelm is like, no, I will not
coward.
let you die.
Felix tries healing him.
Yeah.
And then multiple ones. The best one, of course, Jeremy, go ahead.
Which one? The Rem one?
Reinhard.
Oh, the Reinhardt one. Okay, yeah. Puck and Reinhardt. So it's the one that was apocalyptic in the first season where Puck destroys the world and freezes everybody and freezes Subaru, right? At least that's what we thought it was. Apparently not. We get a power scaling moment between Reinhard and Puck. Reinhard just shows up and he's like, "I'm sorry I have to do this. You understand, but I can't let you deal any more damage to the world. You've done enough harm already."
They have
Please
such
don't
a
resent
cordial
me.
conversation too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Puck's like,
Puck's fully accepting
I don't
of it.
resent anybody. It's mostly my fault too. Like
You're-
I'm as much as fault to this as Subaru is.
You're a hero doing hero things. Good luck
Yeah.
to you. Let's go.
And Reinhardt defeats him without even trying. And that was the most shocking thing in this entire season for me because I knew Reinhard was tough, but Puck looked apocalyptic. So, wow.
For a character who's had to suffer, to twist that suffering in a whole new light.
Yeah.
For Subaru is so.
I love that it's a roller coaster he cannot get off because he wakes up from one timeline and he's like, okay, I'm done. I lose the trial. And then he passes out and goes to the next one.
Yep.
Wakes up, pukes, going to the next one.
So Echidna, to save him, pulls him into the tea party again.
So does this mean he failed the test? Because he would have died. She said you would have lost your mind if I didn't pull you out.
Not sure it's over. We end on a cliffhanger here.
That's true.
I thought it was the Witch of Lust that pulled him out.
She helped, but just the fact that they had to rescue him from
But I
the
did skip
trial.
that over.
Yeah.
This is a big part.
Yeah,
That is
sorry.
true. It's
So-
the REM part.
He wakes up and Rem's there, and she's like, "Don't worry about it. You've tried so hard. Just let it go. Give up. You're the man I love." And she goes to kiss him, and he's like, "Who are you?"
I love that all the women that he wants to love him, he's like, no, this is not reality.
Well, and it's not even that. It's that she's like, I love you. Let me carry your burdens for you.
Right.
He points out, Rem loves me, but no one's harder on me than Rem. Rem will not let me get up. She ends every conversation like this with, "Now stand back up." And you just told me to lay down. No. And yeah, this is Camilla, the Witch of Lust. Then we go to the Witch's Tea Party, and basically
It's a party.
Well, no,
Yeah,
we
it
get
is.
Echidna saying, "Hey, let's make a contract. I'll help you
Oh,
find
that's
the right timeline. I know so much. Use my wisdom. Use me. all we have to do is bond our souls.
Let me experience your experiences.
Now,
I want
again,
a taste of everything you do.
we've seen multiple characters now talk about their contracts and found out that those contracts are with Echidna, or I guess Beatrice. And so, yeah, this he's getting ready to do it, and then suddenly the other witches start showing up, and they're like, she's lying. She's not telling you the whole truth. Ask what you have to pay for.
And the best evidence is the fact that they're here right now alongside her when
Right.
she originally told him that only one of them could be here at a time inhabiting her body. She
Because
lies for no reason.
Yeah, well, she has a reason.
I think sometimes the reason is just to see what happens.
So basically, she offers this thing like, you use me, and I'll use you. I'll get all the experience I've always wanted, and you will get my wisdom and knowledge to try 1,000 times to get the outcome you want. And
Please, hundreds of thousands of times, please.
Yeah. And it's almost it's a confession of love. She says, "This is even love. I'm in love with this."
Not you, not you.
He's like,
Yeah.
"You're kind of not doing this right. You're being weird. You're not showing the right emotion for what you're proposing." And then he asks her, "What about Beatrice's contract? What about that person?" And she's like, "Oh yeah, there is no that person. I just wanted to see what she'd do if she had to pick the person herself." And this brings us back to the butterflies in the OP and the ED. She wants to see the possibilities.
Yeah.
And
Where will
Subaru's the one.
butterflies fly?
Yeah, Subaru's the one who goes through them. And he's like, screw this. No. He's like, I'm going to go help Beatrice. I am done with you. And then Satella enters, and everyone's like, oh no. And that's the end. That's where we leave off, unfortunately.
Well, we did skip over one thing that was kind of important because
I'm sure.
What do
This
you mean
was-
that's where we leave off?
yeah, because Satella, like, what about when she had a hold of him and he bites his tongue and
Commit suicide.
yeah, he's trying to commit suicide and they save him. Did you
Did-
miss an episode?
Did you not watch 13?
There's not a 13. There's only 12 episodes, guys.
No, there's 13 episodes.
You're kidding me.
No.
Mine is labeled as if the numbers continued from the first season, so I was at like 34 or
So
something.
in the dub, like at the beginning of this week, 13 was not released. They released it like Wednesday.
Wait, so wouldn't that be the new season?
No.
No, that's not coming out until like 2021, right?
Yeah.
Okay, somebody tell us.
no!
Tell us what happened in episode 13.
You ready for this, Troy?
Yep, let's go.
All right. I remember that with Satella there, she comes up and this is where she keeps saying things like, "You saved me. I love you. I love you. You saved me." And what I remember from it was that he rejects her, and I think he says, "I would rather have a contract
He
with
calls
her."
them all monsters.
Yeah, he calls them all monsters, and she like goes to grab him or something. God, I wish I'd taken notes. Goes to grab him or something.
And then he bites his tongue off and like chokes himself, which is weird because it's a dream world. How could he commit suicide?
But remember what happens if he dies in this world. It was because Satella... Oh, that's right. This is Satella explaining to him why she did it. Why she gave him this ability. This ability is the witch's authority of envy. That's what Return by Death is. And so what she winds up explaining to him is, through her very cryptic, I love you, this is for you, you should love yourself more. What she's basically explaining to him is, it's not entirely out of selfishness that I've given you this gift. I love you, and I want you to love yourself, and I accept that other people will love you too. And so he's freaking out during all of this conversation because that's like where it crescendos to. That's not where it starts, but that's where it eventually gets to. And so during the process of getting there, he's freaking out and he's like, this is crazy. I'm going to find a way out. And he bites his tongue off, and Echidna looks at him and says, well, that's one way to do it. And the reason is she told him before, if you die here, you will be an invalid.
Right, you'll break your mind.
So if he breaks his mind, Return by Death doesn't help him.
And it's funny too because there ends up being a split amongst the witches because
Mhm.
some of them are like, oh, we should respect his decision to become an invalid, and like Wrath, she's like, no, we are gonna. So it's cool because Wrath like goes for him to punch him cured,
To heal.
and Sloth, one of Sloth's ability is like a gravity gun, and she gravities Wrath into the ground to keep her from healing him.
Oh.
And so I forget who everyone is on side. I think Gluttony ends up on the side of helping him.
Yeah,
but,
she wants to see her creature. She wants to see him fulfill his promise and actually do something with his creature. Or with her
right.
creature.
And same with Lust. So Lust ends up distracting Sloth to get.
Oh, distracting him because she goes in and she's Rem again to help him because in that moment where he's inside Satella, he's
Right.
freaking out. She brings him back again.
Keep him
All right.
keep him sane.
So take this from the guy who over recaps everything. Hi, everybody in the audience. Keep recapping, but go for pretend I've seen it because I will watch it. Don't recap it for me. Recap it for our audience. And
Okay.
we do got to wrap up here.
Okay, well, yeah, it basically ends with they end the episode in the Castle of Dreams. Like
Okay.
he basically thanks Satella for giving him the opportunity of having this power and being able to help the people that he wants to help.
And he thanks all of the witches for helping him in their own way. And he's like, I don't understand any of you. You are all strange. You're monsters. You're evil. But thank you because all of you have helped me in one way or another. And
yeah, he bows to all of them.
Yeah. It's really, really a twist. I did not see coming.
Any cliffhanger ending
he does tell Satella that he's going to save her. And Satella is like way more clearly than in any other time. She's clearly Emilia. Even just the things she says, because that's where she says, you saved me. Past tense.
Her eyes, her facial features, just everything.
Yeah.
So.
All right.
And that's it.
Hello, everyone. Troy from the future again. Due to Jeremy and Jason having watched the episode a few days ago and not having notes like I usually take when I watch the show for the purpose of the recap, they also are going to miss some things here. What they miss is after the tea party with the witches, Subaru then leaves the trial. He's actually dragged out by his dragon, and Otto is there, and they have a nice friendship moment. And then he goes to go back inside, and he actually runs into an invisible barrier, and he is no longer a candidate for the trials. He then goes to talk with Roswell again. Roswell then is very threatening, reveals that he is the one behind the assassins that are attacking the mansion. He hired Elsa. He's also full-on crazy and has been for the past 400 years. And he's not okay with Subaru's current state of preserving his life, which is what he learned from the witches, right? That, yeah, he may have to use return by death, but he also shouldn't be using it as a crutch. Dying is not something one should consider a tool. That's kind of what his character arc happened in there. And then now Roswell's like, that's kind of the opposite way I want you to go. You have this tool, and you need to get the resolve to use it as often as you need, and go on full-on mad like I am. He basically rejects Subaru and says, we'll keep trying until you get this right. Subaru runs off into the forest, has himself another good cry. Otto finds him and socks him in the face and tells him, motivational speech. And that is where this season actually ends. This has no change in any of my reviews, but this was a very good episode, and this ending also includes some very important details that we just couldn't leave out of the episode. So I am coming to you from the future to provide this. Thank you, and sorry again for the mix-up. Hopefully we pay better attention in the future, but we are Baka 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 after all. And now we return you to the past. Thank you.
Even our podcast had a sad twist ending. Let's go to our final reviews.
I think I gushed about this anime enough in the beginning, so I'll just say that I loved it. I can't wait to see more. The writer of this anime deserves all the money in the world, and I give it a 5. Top 3 anime of all time for me.
Yep.
Jeremy?
For me, I actually have to say right now it has beaten out every other anime that I have seen. It is my number 1 anime, even though I'm only halfway into the 2nd season. Just the impact of everything, the way the characters behave, how important every character is, the fact that you've even got consequences for this thing that seemed like it couldn't have consequences, and now, like you said, Troy, pieces are coming on the board that can actually mess with his return by death. New characters are actually able to understand what's going on. He's able to talk to them and have some of that cathartic relief. Every time something happens for him where there should be an emotional reaction, there is an emotional reaction. And this is the scene I was talking about in this witch's dream, where he's bawling and he's crying, and the witches are the ones that actually turn, and they're like, God, he's so childish. And it made perfect sense seeing that in this scene in particular. I have to give this a 5 out of 5. This is fantastic, and I really hope that that it sticks the landing wherever it lands. I hope that every season manages to keep up with this level of quality, and I hope that the rest of this season does too. 5 out of 5.
5 out of 5 for me as well. One thing I want to piggyback on what you said. The fact that telling people finding out about his power didn't make it easier. It made it way harder. That's so clever. Like, he wanted it so bad to tell people, and then it just made things way worse. And that's the kind of thing you get when you have ReZero. It's so layered and so masterfully crafted. The only reason I wouldn't put it at my number 1 is because Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood had an ending, and it stuck the landing. ReZero has to still do that. It has to go the distance, a couple more seasons and then end, and then it could definitely be that number 1, but it's definitely up there in that top 5. All right, so our next anime is going to be Deca-Dence. I tell you how many episodes there are, but I don't trust myself anymore. I think it's 12. It's on Hulu, so you should know for sure. But yeah, so that'll be what we'll be watching next. If you have any thoughts on ReZero Season 2 for the first 13 episodes, please leave a comment on our Twitter at Baka Podcast, or email theanimebakaclub@gmail.com, or leave a comment wherever you found the podcast, and we'll get back to you. We've rambled on way too long about anime we love way too much, so let's go ahead and say goodbye.
Thanks for listening.
See you next time.
Sayonara.